is 365 Sports.
Frazier adding more numbers, more yards to those. Oh, they don't have him yet. Look at Tommy Frazier. How many tackles can one man break? Touchdown.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Ward takes the snap. Play action. Drops. Looks. Pops out of the pocket. Runs to his left. Throws it downfield. It is caught by Dunn. He's got the burst down to the 40. Down to the 50. Down the sideline to the 40. Down to the 30. He separates. He's to the 20. To the 10. To the 5. Touchdown. Florida State. Warwick Dunn on third down. Unbelievable.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Burrow's got time, launching for the end zone, jump ball, touchdown, Terrence Marshall.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Touchdown for Russell, but only 14 of 29. He finds his number one target, number one, Corey Coleman, off to the races, touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. And March, of course, marches on. March Madness, the tournament, but we have said that many times. It's really well before the tournament starts next Tuesday with the play-in games. An unbelievable game today in Kansas City. We'll get to that in a moment. Also one that was very dramatic late last night. Tech and Baylor about to meet again this evening. All of that and more in just a moment. But Chris Vanini had a chance to get a comment from Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark on ESPN2, asked about the college football expansion and more auto bids. And here's his quote. I don't want an artificial championship. I want people to earn their way in. I don't want it to be predetermined. I'm open to discussion. I want to weigh the pros and the cons. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina join me. David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports.
Stick to those guns, Brett. I don't think the fans want to see that either. I don't think the fans of college football as a whole, I don't know. We haven't really heard that much from SEC or Big Ten fans in this, but it's just if you're a fan of college football, and yes, you might be a fan of a conference, do you automatically want to see these teams, or do you want to see the 12, 14, or 16 best teams? That's who I want to see, and most of the time, that's going to probably include 4 and 3 of those two conferences. Maybe some years they won't, but it is trying to prevent the one-off year from happening, and it's just so stupid and makes the product so watered down. So, yeah, I hope Brett Yormark sticks to his guns on this. And I don't know what guns he really has, but if he
Are there any bullets in his guns?
If he has some, then stick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on the surface.
Oh, check, plug your. Hold on, let me check.
Oh, my goodness. We'll try to get that. Hold on, Craig. One other update in the Big 12 before we get.
I took my headset off. No.
There is one game going on up in Kansas City in the Big 12 tournament. Houston up by 8 with a couple of minutes left against Colorado in one of those quarterfinal games. And now that we have a little bit of time, BYU and also Iowa State, what an unbelievable shooting display. 31 of 66 threes. Iowa State hit 13. BYU remains red hot. They hit 18 of 36, and they advance into the next round. Well, they'll face the winner between Houston and Colorado.
Craig, are you back?
I don't know.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
So going back to, I guess, Brett Yormark's comments, I mean, I think that he's saying what fans of the Big 12 would want him to say, which is that he's going to fight back and he's going to fight for his conference. But at the same time, I do think there's a legitimate conversation to be had about what you're risking. And that's why I think about a month ago when this came out, I said as much was I get the whole not giving in, and I get that to just crown teams and put them into this system the way that is being proposed is a bit artificial, and it's not what the heart of the sport or the spirit of the sport is supposed to be. I totally agree with that. I do, however, understand that there's a lot of actions that have been done that are against the spirit of the sport, and how many times you let the people who are quote-unquote in charge of the sport break the spirit of the sport and then go, wait, why are you trying to break the spirit of the sport? And that's what I feel like is kind of happening. You're being cornered in a situation where you don't have but a couple choices, and I think to just sit there and say fight back is probably where all of our heads go. But at the same time, 2 auto bids, guys. Like, I know that they're preparing for the doomsday scenario when, like, there's 4 Big 12 teams that would get in. But, I mean, how often is that going to happen? How often is there going to be 4 teams lined up that are playoff-worthy caliber teams out of the Big 12? And like last year, 12-team playoff, how many Big 12 teams were in that? There was 1. Where were they ranked in that 12? At the bottom.
Yep.
So we know BYU got little to no respect in last year's playoff, and you would hope that maybe it's been talked about enough that doesn't happen this year. But I do think that you fight back, but I also think that you have to sit there in his position where he's getting paid way more money than I'm getting paid, and you've got to be careful about fighting back maybe a little bit too much and then what that costs you down the line. So then all of a sudden you don't even have 2 playoff spots. You're lucky to get 1, and your champion gets in this 16-team, 14-team, whatever we're going to end up doing ultimately. So it's a risk that he's going to have to measure, and I guess he's going with we're going to fight back for right now. But I also do think that the more you sit there and stew on it, like, hey, 2 automatic bids is pretty nice, and it doesn't mean you can't get 3 if you have that magical year where some third team is actually really good, and the way the schedule's worked out, maybe they've only lost the game and is only to one of the 2 teams in front of them. I mean, I don't know what the odds are because I'm not a mathematician, but I think that that's probably about the same odds or close to it as the years where you're going to have 4 teams that are just bursting at the seams. So, I mean, that's why you're the commissioner, is to figure out how to approach those types of subjects. But it's it's a tricky situation because are you getting played one way or the other? With the way things have gone these last couple years, I feel like Sankey and Petitia basically just controlled every domino the entire time. So what are they hoping you say in this situation? What do they want you to say? But, to just turn down 2 bids and go, we're going to fight this with what leverage? That's just what I would be thinking on if I was them. But I get his approach.
Right now, with the 12-team playoff, and the Big 12 had how many teams get in?
1.
All right.
Where were they ranked? Like I said, they were at the bottom.
And if it would have come down to national rankings, then like you said, it may not have happened. They had 8% of the 12-team field with the 1 team. They would have 14% if they get 2 auto bids or 2 teams in with 14 teams, and they would have 12.5% if they were to get 2 teams in and they went up to 16. That is better than 8%, no question. I think I love the fact that he said it. I love the fact that he believes that, because that's what I think. I think most everybody does believe that. And yes, there's going to be the turf wars, and yeah, we're better than you. And yet again, had they done this in the 90s, and I'm not trying to go back to, but had they done this 12-team tournament playoff in the 90s, which conference would have maybe had the most teams that got in if there would have been, let's say, 12 teams in the 90s?
In the 90s in the Big 12? A lot more.
No. In the 90s in college football, now there were different conferences, and I don't even know when Florida State joined the ACC.
In the 90s.
Miami that joined the ACC.
2000s.
But I think that back in the 90s, let's just say the mid-90s, which conference would have had more than 2 or 3 teams? We don't know that because it was pretty even.
Yeah.
The Southwest Conference or the Big 8 or the Big 10 or the Pac-12 or the ACC, Notre Dame would have still been a part of that independent. There would have been a few others who were part of that independence. But
if you just took the Big 12 and let's take a year like 1997. Okay, I picked that for a reason. Michigan and Nebraska split that year.
Mm-hmm.
In the playoff would have been from the Big 12 would have been Nebraska and A&M and probably Kansas State and Texas that year.
Texas, 97. No, that's when they fell apart and they brought in Mac Brown.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. Okay.
But you're going to have, So Nebraska A&M,
Tennessee.
I'm from the Big 12.
Yeah, okay.
From the Big 12, you would have had Nebraska and A&M because those are the teams that played in the championship game. And then you also would have had probably like a Kansas State or somebody else in there as well.
Yep.
So there would have been years where they would have had 3 teams. The thing is that basing this and saying, like, Craig's right. They only got 1 team last year. They didn't get any respect. But they need to do whatever they can to make sure they don't just take the 1 year and be like, see, this is how it always going to be.
I mean, yeah, but like, what do the 90s have to do with this? You know what I mean? Like, the conferences
my
were
point
totally different.
My
the
point
was
is
it
can be cyclical, although it doesn't appear that's going to be the case anytime soon.
Yeah, but it was a cyclical when there was multiple conferences that had like 12 teams in them, and they all had, you know, their various resources pretty spread out. This is not what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with like 2 conferences, 3, maybe 4, depending on what part of the country you're talking to, and then 5 if you want to go out and like Corvallis and ask them about their opinion. But we know they have no power. They have absolutely none. And let's face it, guys, the Big 12 really has none as well. Brett Yormark can say whatever he wants to, but he ultimately doesn't have much say in this. He's kind of at the mercy, and that's why I'm not for like getting on your knees and just bowing down. I don't think you need to do that. But also, like, what's he actually going to do? Is he going to say no?
Yeah.
And then what?
Well, he has to say it and have people get behind him who also have at least some sort of territory for them to use.
Right, and let's be very clear about his quote as well. I'm open to measuring the pros and cons, and I'm looking at it all. So he's just saying what you expect a commissioner to say at Big 12 basketball tournament media session. So, yeah, I mean, that's where he was. He was in his place, but, you know, that's all nice and well and good that you're not so sure about it, but I also don't know what you're really able to do about it.
In 97, there were 5 of the top 13 teams were in the SEC, so they did have a nice. The only thing is Tennessee and Florida were both ranked 4th and 7th, their highest team. It would have been much more spread out. You're right, because the Pac-12 had 4 teams in the top 20, and the Big 10 had 4. And maybe my example's not quite right, but I do still think that even with what it looks like now, obviously, if they go to continue to just load up 2 different conferences, the cyclical part is probably not going to be the case. The ACC had both Florida State and North Carolina at number 3 and number 6 in the country. All right, so there we are with Brett Yormark. It's just a comment. It's a quote, something to chew on today and discuss that. And we will be in Frisco next week for at least a couple of days, maybe 2.5 days or so, covering the pro day. That the workouts start Wednesday. We will be there, I believe, Wednesday and Thursday, go in on Tuesday evening and have Brett Yormark join us. I've already been told that's going to happen, along with many others who will be there next week.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm glad he's doing what he can do. I'm also realistic, and I'm not so sure like what his quote actually matters in the long run, outside of just saying what you would hope that he would say. And it'll make people feel better that he's sticking up for, I mean, the entity he should be sticking up for is the one that writes his paychecks every couple of weeks. So that's what his job is to do what he can for the Big 12. But, yeah, I do think there's more to the auto bid thing than, well, I mean, like I said from the very beginning, I don't agree with it. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a definite power and greed grab. Like a lot of other moves that have been made recently. But I also know 2 auto bids is something guaranteed every year that you don't necessarily have otherwise. And I don't know that every year you'd have 2, the way the old structure was set up. So it's not nothing. And that's just, I guess a topic that people will be split upon, whether that's worthwhile or not.
In the Big 12 that year, Nebraska ended up with a split national title. Just to give, someone was bringing up Colorado. They weren't. That was not a good year for them. K-State was 8th. They were 11-1. And guess what their only loss was? Who was against Nebraska? Missouri, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma State were all between 20 and 24. All right, the Big 12 basketball tournament game going on right now. Houston and Colorado halftime. The Cougars lead 38-33. Colorado was like a mosquito, a gnat, a flea on a dog in the summertime, playing pretty well, trying to extend what would be a miracle if they could keep winning in the Big 12 tournament. They'd have to win the whole thing, though. So they need 3 more wins to be able to play in the NCAA tournament. Also, earlier today, I brought this up and just kind of touched on it. How about BYU, Iowa State? What a freaking game that was. 96-92. There were 31 threes that were hit out of 66. That's insane. That's an insane percentage. BYU continues to be red hot. They move into the next round against the winner of Houston and Colorado. Tonight, in the Big 12, of course, you have a little bit after 6 o'clock, you have the game between Baylor and Texas Tech, along with a nightcap with Kansas surviving UCF. They'll play Arizona. That game is at 8:30. Did you sleep with one eye open?
No. Here's the thing. We did not go to sleep until that thing was over. It started at 8:30. So had it started at 9:30, I might have been in trouble. But it started at 8:30. So the tension ratcheted up. And I checked the score and was following along. And they're up by 13. And so it was one of those things that she told you earlier in the day when you talked to us on the phone that beating a team 3 times is really hard, and so it made her nervous, even though outside of Kansas winning this whole tournament, it's not really going to move them up or down the line. They're kind of where they are going to be. And they're a little bit protected by the fact that they're Kansas, that they're not going to plummet so far down the thing that it would be ridiculous. But but it's just the whole thing about it. They're up by 13. It looked like they'd taken control. And then, before you could say Jackrabbit, they are down by 3, just all of a sudden.
Oh, I know.
And so then, at the end of the game, they get to overtime. And then there's literally 1 second on the clock for about 30 minutes.
I know.
I mean, it just felt like 30 minutes.
It was nuts.
Because of, there's blood on the floor, and then Zeke Mayo, and, all these weird things happened. And I was like, oh. And I don't think she actually fell asleep until about 1 o'clock in the morning. She was fine, but the tension was so ratcheted up that she couldn't.
They won.
Yeah, they won.
They won. They beat UCF, important. And they move on and have a game tonight. But that Houston, Colorado game is pretty tight. Now, last night, it's been a tough year for K-State basketball. That first year, Jerome Tang was there. They had a hell of a team. Made a deep run in the tournament. He could have asked for more money and gotten it. And everybody loved him. He walked on water. We love Jerome Tang. Not everybody does. Not everyone gets him. And then last year, okay. This year, it was bad. Then they won 6 games in a row to kind of make a run. But they're now at, I think, overall, 16 and 17, whatever their record was. They lost to Baylor by double digits. After the game, Paul, where did Coleman Hawkins come from?
He came from Illinois.
He was from Illinois. He got a big bunch of money. This is interesting. This is not easy to watch, but Rob Douster, who joined us last week, college basketball podcaster for the Field of 68, put this up on his timeline. Now, I know how some of you are going to react, and some of you will react the opposite way. Here is K-State's Coleman Hawkins after reality hit that K-State would not be going to the NCAA tournament.
These guys haven't experienced some of the things I've experienced. And, I really wanted to come in and impact the program. Fuck, man. I'm sorry for crying, but this shit hurts, but I really wanted to come in and impact the program. And, some of the stuff, the outcome, obviously wasn't what we wanted, but, if someone asked me if I regret coming here, I tell them, I don't regret meeting my team, the coaching staff, the people I met, and my heart just breaks for them because, like I said, they just haven't experienced some of the things I experienced in my career. But same thing for the fans, because I feel like I let a lot of people down. And I feel like I did a poor job of letting people talk about me and it affect my play. And it was evident all year, and I wish I could just go back and block out everything, not for myself, but for the team, so we could have had a more successful year. But, this is a learning lesson for me, and I wish the best for the future of this program.
All right, so the reaction in the chat room is exactly what the reaction was after that was posted. And Rob Douster wasn't the only one who posted it. There were some that, man, that's hard. That's hard to watch, no matter. And there were some that, you're getting paid now, shut up. It's part of the pressure of getting the bag. Maybe I'm just, and I can be pretty hard on some things at certain times, but he was only sharing his emotion. I don't think he was asking any of you to feel sorry for him. You either do or you don't. But it was just a comment after the game. He was supposed to be kind of a, I don't know about the word savior, but a huge difference for them this year. Didn't work out that way. There was a lot of social media, a lot of other things. Part of the deal, and K-State's season basically ends.
Give me 12 of the guys on scholarship that care about his team as much as that guy does. Everybody shows their emotion in different ways, and everybody has emotion when his college basketball career is over. It's over. He's not going to play anymore. I know I was only 17 years old, but I was a blubbering idiot when my high school football career ended. I wasn't and it wasn't about I'm not going to get paid. I'm never going to get to do this with these people ever again in my life. That's over. You spend so much time. and so much effort trying to do something great, coming together as a team, doing all those things. Yeah, you're justified some emotion. Everybody's different. Some guys go into a bit of a shell. Other guys, it just comes rushing out of them because the emotion and the fire that it takes to compete night in and night out in college basketball in the Big 12 is a lot. And you know what? Give me 12 guys that'll show that much emotion in the same way.
Are we sure he's done? He's only played 5 years. We sure there's not another year hanging around there somewhere? I didn't follow him and all the circus or whatever coverage there was of his NIL deals. I know he got paid apparently $2 million.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's
so report, I know that he apparently played that up a little bit, leaned into that, and now he's regretting it because they got embarrassed basically as a team because of the way the season panned out. So, look, guys, I feel for him too, but if you dish it, you gotta be able to take some of it back as well. And so I don't know. I don't want to speak too much about what he acted like or anything like that. I'm just going simply off what he said, which is that he could have handled things a little bit differently. I'm not into the social media stuff. I don't know anything about him. Couldn't tell you where to look for his profile or anything like that. But clearly, he leaned into the NIL and the K-State move and all those things. And, there was a crowd that was there to throw some of it back at him. And I'm not going to lecture those people because I don't know too much about it, but I do feel for the young man. He's clearly very broken up about it. As much as you put your heart and your soul and your teammates and all that, he played 4 years for Illinois. He was with K-State for a year. I know I'm not saying it doesn't hurt any less, but clearly they made an impact and vice versa in that 1 year. It's a shame it got cut that short and it didn't turn out the way that everybody thought, especially with all the investment emotionally, physically, what have you. But, it's March. You're going to see dudes crying. I feel for him to some extent, but it's just a shame that, young man's got to learn such a big lesson so publicly. That's the part of it that's tough just as a human being. I do feel for him in that way. So good luck to him with whatever's next.
His quote, "I'm sorry for crying. This shit hurts, man. And I really wanted to come in and impact the program," which he did. He got a bunch of money. It is the times of when you shouldn't boo college football players or athletes or college athletes. It's changing because of the fact now that they're basically pros and they're getting paid. That doesn't mean that they're not any less sensitive that if they didn't make money and just were on scholarship with some swag. But the reaction, all three of us had a little bit of a different reaction. I hate it because I hate it for him. At the same time, when you get the money and then you don't perform or your team doesn't perform and you're the reason they were supposed to be really good, you're going to take some heat.
There are just crappy people out there, like the people that get into fights at high school sporting events, the people who go and try to swing at a referee at a middle school basketball game, just the lowest low level of trash. There are always going to be those people, especially on an anonymous social media site like Twitter. So I think you just rule out a certain percentage of people automatically that they're just crappy people, that look forward to just being ugly and being mean because it's cool, because they were just raised twisted or something. But, I think there's some of that's just trolling or just ugly people. I think that's unfortunate, but that's social media. That's also, as you mentioned, college sports when athletes are now so high profile and are covered basically like professional athletes now by a lot of outlets at this point. I mean, you got certain college websites that are, covering every single NIL deal, and hey, look at this guy's got a Lambo, and this guy's doing that, and then you wonder why people turn around at like the Wisconsin game when the guy with the Lambo that's been flaunting it doesn't score even like 15 points per game. Yeah, you're going to boo that guy. Like, there's going to be segments of people that boo that guy. So that was the give and the take with the money becoming as involved and as public as it was. We knew that was coming, was there was going to be not that trashy segment I'm talking about, that they're just going to be ugly regardless, but the segment of just regular college fans, there's going to be people that just are always going to treat it like, hey, guys, they're kids. They're college students. And then there's going to be the people that were like that now go, that college student that's crying made $2 million last year, honey. Like, I got every right to boo that guy. He's not just on scholarship now. And so some have taken that liberty and looked at the NIL piece as an open door now to walk through to basically treat them like professional athletes. And so I guess it's up to the individual on how they go about that. But I'm not surprised. This was always going to be the case whenever NIL got so involved. You heard the cries of people, get ready to get treated like professional athletes, almost like they were looking forward to being able to yell at them in a different way now. And so, here we are. This is a shining example of that. But it's also, it's not just all NIL. It's just a kid who's heartbroken, and we're going to see a bunch of people cry over the next few weeks as well that has nothing to do with NIL. So this is March. This is also just where we are as college sports goes nowadays. So good luck to him and whatever's next. Again, I don't know a lot of his story, so I don't know how he rubbed people the wrong way outside of just benefiting from his talents. But I know, obviously, he did not live up to what K-State and everybody expected that they would be able to accomplish.
There's a bunch of stories we still need to get to, and we have time to do that. We have a lot of guests, including Max Olson, who's just around the corner. Drake basketball coach Ben McCollum, which is a great story. They're in the NCAA tournament. He'll join us. We have off the radar, the top five. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys and what has been the first week of free agency. And then we'll look at the Florida State schedule today as we continue day by day getting through the ACC, still very early into that conference of 17 teams. And let's see. Oh, in the Duke game today, they came back trailing at halftime, and Cooper Flagg went out. He was actually in a wheelchair. And John Shire, the head coach at Duke, saying that he doesn't think that Cooper Flagg will be playing tomorrow.
X-rays are negative.
That's good.
And they don't, again, it's the ACC tournament. Duke is going to be a 1 seed. They don't.
Doesn't matter if he plays or not.
They're also ridiculously deep instead of Cooper Flagg. And you can see that by, those times where Cooper Flagg's out of the game and nothing bad happens.
Yeah, they actually increased the lead.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
We'll come back with Max Olson. And, by the way, Houston now up 9 early on, a couple of minutes into the second half against Colorado. It's Craig Smoak and David Smoak and Paul Catalina. This is 365 Sports.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Attention Central Texas. The Jeep Celebration event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home a legendary 2024 Jeep Wrangler, Sahara, Rubicon, or Grand Cherokee, saving 20% off MSRP. Or save a whopping $13,000 on a 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Prefer low financing? Get 3.9% for 72 months. But hurry, these deals won't last long. Hurry to Allen Samuels in Waco, where we always say,
come by, let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports, we take you up until around 6 o'clock today. We'll have Max Olson in just a moment from ESPN and his take on what's happening right now with the basketball tournament front and center, but always college football, because it's become like the NFL, 12 months a year and something going on every single day and or also week. Max Olson, ESPN, joins us now on 365 Sports. Max, we had a quote earlier from Brett Yormark, and again, this could have come yesterday, it was today, about the fact that there will be automatic bids and he wants everybody to earn it. Craig brought this up. You had one team out of 12, which is 8%. If you have 2 out of 12, that, of course, is a higher number. 2 out of 14, still a higher number. Heck, 2 out of 16 is a higher number. Should the Big 12 just be happy with 2 moving forward, or do you think that Yormark, unless somebody else backs him up around the country, is just talking?
It's a good question. Like, in those conversations, in those rooms where they have these talks, like, I mean, I don't think it's just like media portrayal of like, wow, it seems like Sankey and Titi have the leverage and the power in these conversations. Like, I think that is the case. So I think it's like, now, do I really think those guys would split off and run their own postseason? Like, no, I don't think so. But I think it's a tough spot to be in, I think, for Brett Yormark and I think probably for the ACC of just like, okay, what are the concessions that you need to get to feel like ultimately, hey, this is a good deal for our conference? I think if you're expanding it, then yeah, I think guaranteeing 2, I think as a conference, you would probably have to feel pretty good about that, because I think the reality is that, and this is like a tough reality, but you know, there's parity in the Big 12, but it's difficult for the programs in this conference to consistently put together a bunch of top 25 or certainly not like top 10 recruiting classes, right? To feel like, okay, we can, you know, consistently play for national championships. Now the portal makes that easier if you have the money, but I mean, I think it's going to be tough I don't think there's going to be that many years where you're like, actually there should be 4 Big 12 teams out of this 12 or something like that. Right. So I think it's like, I think that in some ways you probably have to take what you can get, because it is going to be hard for the conference to have, like one power that's always competing for national championships.
Yeah, I think the thing that just bothers me about it, Max, of them, like, it shouldn't be preordained. They're going to get what they want most of the time anyway. So like, what are we preventing here? You know, like what?
Correct. Like
yeah.
it has to be limiting for the SEC and the Big Ten for it to be fair, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some times when they have more than 4 that should be in, and that's not how it breaks for them. And yeah, I think if you look at the history of the playoffs, I don't know that you would say, oh, this is a great move for them in every way. But like, yeah, that is that's a hard thing to like just compromise on. But one that certainly I think right now in the current deal, everybody has to have consensus on. Going forward, not so much.
Max, a couple of days ago, Richard Reese, former all-freshman Big 12 running back at Baylor, entered the transfer portal. It's been pretty quiet portal-wise here at present. But just any idea of sort of the suitors possibly for Richard Reese at this point?
I haven't heard so far. I think probably smart of him to put his name out there early as someone that is going to be available, because I think, we're a month out from the portal opening and, truly have not heard a lot of names, a lot of big names that are planning to go in yet. I think that'll start to kind of trickle out here over the next few weeks. But I do think there's some advantage to being one of the only like known proven guys out there. And, I think certainly that production that he had as a freshman is going to get people's attention. Obviously, the last 2 years didn't get the ball as much, but I still think that, certainly teams are looking to have, complementary running backs and kind of have stable approach these days. So I would imagine he'll find a good spot and probably I would think he can find a spot at the Power 4 level.
Your tweet from earlier today, we're 1 month away from the spring transfer portal. It's the last chance to spend big before revenue sharing cap. But will elite talent hit the market? Will that create more elite talent hitting the market or less?
Well, I think it's just a different deal in this offseason because teams have dedicated so much money to paying their current players to bring them back for 25. And so, in November, December, you had every program out there trying to, renegotiate with all of their returning players and agree on a number and a deal that felt good so that player wasn't going to go in the portal. And so I think when you talk to, I talked to a dozen GMs and DPPs and a few agents for this piece. And, I think the sense is like, you hope that those retention efforts pay off, that guys are not looking to leave at the end of the spring. But I think that you have to recognize that that players can certainly come back to the coaches in April and say, okay, well, I had a good spring, so I want more money now. And I think that's the thing that's going to be pretty difficult for these teams to work through, because they're going to be under a salary cap when the House settlement is approved. And they just might not be able to afford to keep everybody, just as they weren't in December. And so I don't know that you will see. I think traditionally you don't see big name quarterbacks go in the spring portal. You don't see a ton of big time players, make those moves. But this is kind of the last chance for people to spend their collective money. And so I think the teams that are still trying to load up for a playoff run, there's going to be that kind of tampering and trying to get elite players.
Do you feel that any of the non-spring game stuff, the shrinking of spring football, will affect the portal in any way, shape, or form?
That's a good question. I don't think to cancel your spring game over tampering, I understand on a case-by-case basis why that's very frustrating to have to fight that in April. But I don't think that, I don't know how much teams are necessarily watching a spring game on ESPNU and then saying, let's go get that guy. And then they get him in the portal. It can happen, definitely. And I know in the case of Matt Rule in Nebraska, they had to fight to hold on to two of their starters after last year's spring game, which was, televised on Big Ten Network. But I think that I don't know that I don't think it's going to have much of an impact on more players or fewer players going in, just because a few programs aren't playing their spring games. But I do think that stuff is still important. I do think having a spring game, and especially with how many newcomers every team is working with, I think it's good to get those live reps and get that experience and stuff. But, certainly understand from the coach's standpoint, I think coaches are very paranoid of they do not want to put a spotlight on their guys, and especially their young players, that could lead to them, having people contact them and trying to, persuade them with big money.
How's that been taken locally in Nebraska, Max? I've heard plenty from Matt Rule and heard him explain the reasoning behind it, and I understand it, but that was also kind of a proud thing of like, we're going to pack this spring game. Has anybody really balked at that, or is it just like, all right, yeah, it makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's I think there's some element of, or there's some level of disappointment because, yeah, that has been a big tradition for that Nebraska fan base. I think for the first year of Scott Frost, they drew 86,000 for their spring game, which was the school record. So that's something that they in the past took pride in of we're going to have big attendance for this. And therefore this will be a big recruiting weekend and all of that. So I do think you lose something there. Now they're doing a fan fest and 7-on-7 and all these things to replace it. And they're charging for admission for that. So you're still trying to make up for some of that lost revenue, but I can understand it from Matt Rule's perspective, but definitely was a big tradition around here.
How much did you know Dan Wetzel, who's in the business, he's at ESPN with you guys, and what a huge, he was on with us a lot, as much as maybe you or Sam and others always enjoyed his opinions, didn't always agree with everything, because that's good we don't. Your thoughts about him adding himself to ESPN?
Yeah, very, very exciting. Dan Wetzel, truly just one of the best in the business, as a columnist, as an investigative reporter. I think that what he achieved at Yahoo Sports, in making that, going to a site that's a search engine and turning it into a real destination for sports coverage is extremely impressive. So yeah, that's a huge move for ESPN. Excited to work with him.
Max, will you venture around to the remaining spring games? I know that there's a running list of schools that aren't doing it, or was it just better for you to go to whatever practices they'll let you go to?
Yeah, I think it's more beneficial to go over to practices and just go do campus visits in the spring and summer when you can. So yeah, I don't know how much any of us really build our schedules around. I'm going to try to be at these certain spring games. I think the last spring game I went to, to cover, was probably Oklahoma a couple of years ago, and pretty useful in terms of seeing new talent and kind of seeing what the depth chart looks like and things like that. But certainly that they do a good job of making players available and coaches available after that. But I would say, I don't know, what do you guys think? If spring games, if that was a thing of the past, would that be how would that be received there?
I wouldn't miss it at all.
I wonder if it depends on who you're covering.
I don't think you're the right person to even ask, though, Paul, honestly. You're not somebody that was ever into it. I'll say as somebody
Paul
who's
does not want to watch Florida State spring games. So, he's not the right person to ask.
Yeah, and who would? No, but no, he's not really involved. He wasn't a big going to all those events type of thing. As somebody who would go to all of them every year, I'm actually cool with it. If you give us just a little bit of access to be able to get in there on occasion, I'm fine with that, but I don't need you to, have some big spring game. And quite honestly, the last couple of times, we've been sitting in the press box halfway through going, is this thing almost over yet? So yeah. I think we're kind of okay with it as well.
Obviously on my end with my job, there's a lot of the personnel side of things. And so I'm interested to see, hey, how does this freshman or how does this transfer or this new quarterback, how does that stuff look? But certainly sitting in the stands, you can't say it's good football.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, so I think, just doing something like a little scrimmage or something like that, maybe give us a little, look in on occasion every couple of days. I think that's more than enough as far as I'm concerned. Max, there was a leak of one of the covers of the new video game that will be coming out this summer, and that led me to just want to know, where are you with your dynasty? How has whatever Max's team has been since the video game came out? I know you're a busy man, but what have you built up over the last year with the video game in your hands?
That's a tremendous question. You couldn't have asked it at a better time. First of all, I want to say that the image that leaked out of the photo shoot, real head coaches in that photo shoot, saw James Franklin and Lane Kiffin and a bunch of guys. So if that game's going to have real coaches in it for next year, that would be a huge addition. That'd be very cool. Boys, we got a national championship game tonight.
Oh,
in the dynasty. Yeah, I'm in. We're actually me and my buddies from college. We are doing a Big 12 online dynasty, and I chose Texas Tech and we are playing Oklahoma State for national championship tonight.
Wow, that's big time.
Wow.
How much?
We're in year
much,
2 here. Year 2.
how
So
much are you
Micah
getting?
Hudson, Baron Morton. We got Matthew Golden for year 2. We've had a great year.
You stole Matthew Golden from Texas?
Yeah.
We met, and guess who my running back is at Texas Tech in year 2? We got Richard Reese.
Okay.
Yeah. Max, I am in 2032 now of my FSU dynasty, and
Love it.
last 2031, I moved some teams into the Big 10. I got to tell you, didn't do anything for me. So I won the national championship in the Big 10 title because that's what I do. But I am now going into the SEC and to see if that's more challenging and exciting.
Wait a minute. You can't go into a conference that doesn't want you.
Well, now, here's the deal. Yeah, well, you can in this game. And here's the deal. I got Ohio State and Michigan, but they both sucked. So, I kind of got lucky, and I didn't have to play Oregon. So,
and Paul, you just at the point now where you're just signing 25 stars every year?
About 8. Like 8. You get them. But sometimes it's maddening because they're like, hey, number 1 on your list the whole time. And the minute you sign another 5-star at another position, it's like the algorithm in the game's like, nah, you've had enough. And they always go to Miami and Florida. Always. Never to a school that I don't care about. Always my rival schools. I wonder what the programming is in the game. But we'll see if I can win the SEC in 2032.
Best of luck to you. I have one thing I have done in Dynasty that is pretty fun is in the off season, 1 year after just getting through a bunch of seasons, going back and resetting the conferences back to 2019, back to the good old days, which feels like a long time ago. A bit of a pain to set up all the old divisions again and stuff, but funny to make everybody go back to where they used to be.
And it just all makes sense. It actually makes sense when you see all these teams aligned together the way that they are. Man, what did we have that's no longer ever going to be the same? I mean, there were warning signs. Not that we could do anything about it, of course, but, that leads us even into Paul bringing up Florida State. Surprised you didn't choose the SEC, since that'll also maybe be in the cards. But
I wanted to do it so I could see, because I feel like more Florida State fans want the Big Ten because they're spiteful of the SEC. Even the Big Ten's part of that. They should be spiteful of both of them, but, whatever.
Well, what you should do for a year, Paul, is try going independent then and just make up your own schedule.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. That's better. Yeah, I think
they were independent for a while.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, I'll go back to 1987. Let's rock.
Max, did you have any thoughts on that story last week? Just the whole settling the resolution of the lawsuit between Florida State, Clemson, and the ACC?
Yeah, it makes sense that ultimately they would come to a compromise that keeps things together here for the next few years. Because I don't think anybody believed that Florida State and Clemson were one call away from joining another conference. I do think, from a big picture standpoint, I'm sure you guys talked about this, but do we really think that the unequal revenue sharing is going to be a thing that everybody's happy with here in a couple of years?
No.
I think if you're like at Boston College, you're like, I think we're about to get screwed really hard. And you know what I mean? I think the bottom of that conference, it's just going to be such an uphill climb. And I'm not saying that the merit-based pay doesn't make sense, but I just think the history. I think even Greg Sankey has said this. History of college athletics is that not great things maybe come from that, and so and that's the Big 12 probably would have been willing to do that, gun to its head with Texas and Oklahoma, but those guys moved on before it came to that. I suppose in some ways they did with the third party, the third tier rights, but you kind of wonder about, I understand you want to keep the family together, but I don't think that we're really done talking about people being disgruntled within that conference, just with the way that that's going to be set up here going forward.
Do you think that will be contagious in the other leagues, though?
I don't know. I don't know how much I see the SEC being next or the other leagues being next on that. I don't know that there's a member of the Big 12 that is so far superior to the rest that
Utah's
somebody should be
try.
asking for that.
Utah will try to say that they're deserving.
Yeah, I don't know that I see it being replicated, but I think the other piece of that, and I know Andy Staples and other people have pointed this out, big piece of this was just that Florida State and others wanted to know what's the number if we leave the conference, and certainly that number is going to be under $100 million here in the not too distant future. So does that mean that we're going to have another wave of realignment? When the next round of TV deals are up, I think you'd probably have to bet at this point that there's a decent chance of that.
I would not bet against it because I just feel like that's just going to be a chasm of just poof.
Someday there will be more consolidation, don't you think? I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying I think that we can't sit here and say that we're done with it.
Yeah, I think when you hear people start to spout well, what about if so-and-so joins and joins and joins and the Pac adds these schools and the Big 12, it's they're consolidating. They're not growing. That's the thing to me, right, is I think if anything, they're shrinking it down. They're not trying to add more and more and more. So, yeah, I think that's definitely on the table. I think the only saving grace for the ACC is they're holding it together, even if it's toothpicks and scotch tape right now, and just hoping that the next 5 years is as crazy as the last 5 years. So it's totally unpredictable, and maybe somehow it works for them in the long run, right? But that's all you're really hoping
for. And we'll
for.
Just have to see, with these advantages, if you're Clemson or Miami or Florida State or whoever, is it true? Can you actually close the gap on the top teams in the SEC, and can you get a bunch of wins against them in the playoff and stuff, or will that not ultimately still make the difference?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
None of us do. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
that's what we're going to see in the next 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's so. And it's probably not going to be quite what we think. Somehow won't be quite what we think. I don't think anyone ever thought it would be Oregon and Washington in the Big Ten or the changes. No. Some of the other movement maybe yes, but that's what makes it would be nice. And I know it's been great for college football for all of us that cover it, including you. But at the same time, wouldn't it be nice to have a year where we just talk about wins and losses in the games?
Yeah, and I would like to have a summer off here at some point. I'm sure you guys would too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thank you, man.
Good luck, man, with the national
thanks,
championship
guys. Appreciate
game.
you.
Good luck.
Hey,
tonight.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. No pressure. We got this.
Texas Tech and the Raiders and Oklahoma State.
In the national title.
They're very similar schools, and then they're not. They're very similar, but they're not.
I'll tell you, I prefer Lubbock to Stillwater as a locale.
I've never seen Stillwater in the daytime, which sounds like some weird country song or something like that. But
the way you said
it's
that,
true. Yeah. I've never seen it in the daytime, so I only saw, and I've never seen it when it's above 40 degrees because of the absolute blistering cold storm that was taking place during the night game that I went to actually up in Stillwater, and that's all I ever knew of it, so I can't really comment. I know plenty about Lubbock and live there, so I had to just default to them based on my experiences, but that's a fun little national championship game, and I like that was the timing that we had there with Max. I'm sure we'll talk about the video game cover at some point, but that's about to start ramping up as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things I do like, and thanks to the late T. Boone Pickens for this, is the media bathroom at.
This is like the one story you bring up every time we talk about Oklahoma State.
It's great. That's what I can give you because it was near his suite and he didn't want to pee in squalor.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. But other than that,
I enjoyed the trip.
I do. I enjoy the state. The state. They have a great atmosphere there.
Oh my God, yeah.
As far as if I've only been to Stillwater, gone into the stadium, and gone to Eskimo Joe's, that's it. I haven't ventured around because there's not much venturing to do by design of the city fathers.
Yeah, I don't know. We weren't there long enough. In any of the times I was there, one time covered the game and drove back that night into Oklahoma City to just get closer to getting back into Texas.
Jedediah Stillwater didn't set out and go, one day we'll be the size of Dallas. That never happened. That was not their plan.
What was his first name?
Jedediah.
Okay. All right, when we come back, Drake, they're in the NCAA tournament. Ben McCollum, what a career. And probably the question I have is what took so long for an FBS cover or Division I school to reach out to him They're having a great run. They're in the tournament. We'll talk with him. We'll also update that Houston game against Colorado. Houston will get BYU if they win, or if it's Colorado in a huge upset, that's who they would play next, and more. This is 365 Sports. Baylor's playing this evening against Texas Tech. Grant McCaslin, Scott Drew, you know that Scott hates that. Like he had to hate it against playing against Jerome Tang every time or any of his other former staff. But here's what's going to happen at the team hotel where Baylor is. I know this because the Baylor fan engagement, Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe have set this up to where you go to the team hotel. They'll have watch parties there if you're not going to the game, which you should be able to. Or they'll also have other particular events, including a pep rally to launch them out as they walk out of the hotel. That's what they do. They travel the country and support Baylor athletics wherever they may be. At Big 12 tournament in Kansas City with the women last week, the men this week, and then wherever they may end up when it comes to the NCAA tournament, although the women might be in Waco for the first couple of rounds. Paul Thorpe, Doug Furch, Baylor University alumni fan engagement.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports as conference tournaments continue to roll on. An update from Kansas City, Houston, and Colorado at a game where they will winner will play BYU in the semifinals tomorrow evening. Houston up 10 with 9 minutes left, and a game that's going a little higher than I thought with the way Houston plays defense, 60-50, plenty of time left in that game. We're now joined by Ben McCollum, the head coach at Drake. They're in. They've punched their ticket. He has been he has been incredibly successful throughout his career, and he joins us on 365 Sports. Coach, thank you very, very much for your time. You knew when you took that program, Drake's got some history, but what did you think you could do quickly? Because it seemed like no matter what, you've always won.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily our intent to come right in and do that. Our whole deal was to make sure that we build a program for the future. And, I think we just took tough kids. We took kids that wanted to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And it just.
Coach, you have had several long winning streaks during the season. Are you a coach that, do you not talk about them? Do you just do it? Or is it one of those things where you do mention like, hey guys, we're not losing. Do you lean into it? How do you deal with that? Because it's a tricky thing.
We don't talk much about winning and losing. So, whether it's a streak, I'm honestly, half the time I don't even know our record. I think that too often people get excited about results, which is great. And obviously that's what you're trying to achieve is a certain result. I think when you try so hard to achieve those results, I think a lot of times you stop focusing on the process of what is going on. And for us, we really try to focus on that process. And we know that if we invest in that as much as possible, then those results will continue to come like we want. But no, I don't pay attention much to it. I also, through winning championships, I also understand it's exciting for everybody. The head coach, it's probably not as exciting. I hate to say it. It's probably, it's more exciting to come to a practice and have a really good practice and go home in a good mood. Like that's where I get my excitement from, is just that, the simple things, the little things that go on throughout a day.
When you mentioned the process, and you also mentioned you're not so much looking at what you do this year or the long term and trying to make sure the foundation is solid, concrete, steel, whatever, and not maybe fragile. How difficult is that in today's environment of college athletics in the transfer portal? Does that affect Drake even more? Because if you're good, then the schools above you, at least in their size, may say, okay, let's go get those guys.
Oh, yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, I mean, the more success, the more it's going to cost you at the mid-major level, essentially. And the harder it is to continue the success. But that's also why you get the right kids. Mm-hmm. And so if you can get the right kids and then you use your NIL to try to retain those kids, I think a lot of times they see the benefits of being in a program for multiple years and really developing and really being with somebody that really cares for them. I do think there are, some kids that still want that and they still want to be a part of a place that really values them as people, not just as a commodity. And, and that's what we sell to kids. And a lot of times it does work out for us pretty good.
Your third year in a row that Drake will be in the NCAA tournament, first with you there, Coach Ben McCollum with us on 365 Sports. But at my age, I was 10 years old when Drake started a 3-year run of getting to the NCAA tournament and once played against the great UCLA teams of John Wooden. So there is some history there. Does it help when there is some history like that, or does that really matter?
I think it was more the initial. First off, my real estate agent was Rick Wanamaker, who was on that team. So,
okay. There you go.
But there you go. Yeah, there's a name. But no, I think it was probably the recent history with Coach DeVries, and then I think he had some success, and so then obviously put us on the map, and then you just have to that success. Obviously, we didn't have any of his. We have only 2 of his former players, but I do think it does put you on the map to be able to recruit a little better. The other thing that did help, and everything's player driven and everything's personnel driven. Well, when they built a practice facility and lounge here and allowed our guys to hang out a bunch, about 7 or 8 years ago, there's no coincidence that they've won for 7 or 8 years. And so and then they've got the right athletic director, they've got the right president. And so it's all people driven. That's allowed for the success. And then obviously when you have a little bit of success, then people want to join that, and it puts you on the map, which has happened. And obviously now we're able to continue that.
What is, you were at the Division II level for a long time. What was the starkest difference, and what are the things that are kind of silly when like people say, oh, well, it's totally different on this level, that it's not really that different?
Yeah. So kind of answer the second question first. I think, like where there's no difference and maybe even there's a slight difference the other direction. And I say this with all humility and all due respect, because there's really good coaches everywhere. There's a lot of good Division I coaches, and there's a lot of, there's a handful that we played this year that were fantastic and just as good as any coach that I've ever faced. But I will say the Division II coaches that I've faced for years and years and years were just as good, if not better. Just from a coaching X's and O's standpoint, and not. Now the difference is every team's going to have 8 really good players. I mean, and at Division II they might have 4, and so then you're able to do certain things defensively and offensively and isolate individuals. But at this level, it's more difficult to do that because there's better players. But I do feel like the coaches, because they have to adapt to their personnel constantly at Division II, where a lot of times better. Than not all the coaches that I've faced at this level, but quite a few of them.
Did you smile as you watched what Curt Cignetti was doing at Indiana, which is somewhat similar what we see at the college football level with coaches who have had success elsewhere? Then they go to what is the FBS in football, and it just the success continues?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have somebody that comes from lower levels, you certainly want them to have success because they can do it and they can coach. Part of me though is I just like when good people have success, regardless of what level they're from, and if they do things for the right reasons and send the right messages to whatever community they're in, I think that's probably more important than whatever level they come from. There's, I probably cheer for my buddies more than anybody, and then I cheer for good people second, and my buddies are good people too. But, so yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of Division II that you'd be surprised. One of my good friends, Grant McCaslin, he's a D2 guy and JUCO guy. And then one of his staff members, Jeff Linder, was at Emporia State before I was at Emporia State. Like, he was an assistant there. That's how he got his start and played D2. And so, like, you can go down the list of a variety of people that have come from lower levels that have had a lot of success. And, we certainly take pride in that.
Did you bring up Grant McCaslin?
Yeah, we know him. We know him well.
Yeah, we're in Waco, and obviously got to know him quite well when he was on Scott Drew's staff for a long, long time.
Yeah, Grant's one of my Grant and Jeff Linder. Pretty close with them. So real close with them actually. I talk to Jeff about every single day, and Grant as often as head coaches, as often as us head coaches can talk.
Coach, you guys have a really good 9-player rotation of guys that play significant minutes, almost 10 minutes a night or more. How much has that enabled you to keep pace with a grueling season and all that? Because some teams only go 7 deep or can only really have a 7-man rotation. The other 2 guys might play 2 or 3 minutes because of foul trouble or just somebody needs to get water. You guys have 9 guys that can roll in and out and play significant minutes.
Yeah, so I will tell you this. We have 3 guys that play 40 minutes a game. So Bennett Sturts leads the country in minutes. The second leading minute guy in the country is Mitch Muscari, who's on our team. And then Daniel Abreu has to be up there as well. But in saying that, after that, we certainly, those 3 spots, we go a little bit with the hot hands. Obviously Tavion Banks has really played well, so he'll be at that 25-minute mark, and then Cam Manyao. I mean, there's quite a few guys that get minutes. We actually only have 9 guys that we can play. So we only have 12 on our roster. Two of them are redshirting. One hurt his foot, had a stretch fracture in his foot. And so we actually only have 9 guys that can play. But all of them are ready to go every game. And it helps with our depth, and it helps in case somebody isn't quite ready, then you can play somebody else.
And in tournament play, don't you usually slim down the rotation? But with you, you're deep enough that you can go as deep as you need to. But isn't that what happens in tournament play?
Yeah, I mean, historically we play about 6 guys, but we're just sitting right about that 9 mark. It doesn't mean that we play all 9 every game,
sure, or
that we, play this guy 12 minutes. It's just it's kind of what we need specific to that game with certain guys. Whereas your Mitch and your Bennett Sturts are going to play 40 minutes every game.
You have a long break here. Is that beneficial, or does that also sometimes you wonder about the fact that you have a long break and you get rusty at all?
We'll find out probably Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't really worry about it outside of making sure that the trick is you don't want to maintain. So there's no such thing as that. You either get better or you get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to continue to get better and have that mentality rather than a maintain mentality. That just doesn't ever work for anybody. So we're trying to get better right now.
Ben McCollum, head coach at Drake, with us on 365 Sports. Paul?
On Sunday night, you and the team are going to gather together and watch the selection show. Your first one with this group. How excited are you for this moment, not only for your team, but for you and your family and the career, to get to this moment and hear, them say, Drake, this seed against this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is pretty neat only because you grow up watching, and you fill out your brackets. And so now my kids, when they fill out their brackets, they'll probably have Drake in the national championship game. So it'd be a heck of a deal.
Tell them you don't need that pressure.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to win, right?
Yeah,
that's the theory. That's what I told my guys the other day in the thing. You're trying to go to the tournament to actually win. That's the objective. And it's so many of these schools go in, well, we're not the ones that are supposed to win. Well, who is? And which game are you going to lose? And so, we're going to go in with a good mindset and see what happens.
The reason I love the NCAA tournament is, like for example, you had Stephen F. Austin. That's my alma mater, and they had a team with Brad Underwood and Kyle Keller that made a decent run. To me, Drake and others, and I'm not trying to say you're Cinderella, but this is why I love the NCAA tournament. What are your thoughts about the expansion of 8 more teams at some point? Is that for others like Drake, or is that going to be just because the bigger conferences get more teams?
Yeah, good question. I think if you do that, if you do expand it, the only way I would probably do it is if you took regular season conference champions from mid-major levels in, because there's really no reward other than pride to winning your regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think you'd have to do it like that, not expand it to get a 4 and 16 SEC team in. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think there is still a level of winning that needs to occur. I get it. I get that Power 4 is obviously got more resources, bigger, faster, stronger, whatever it may be, but you also have to win games. And so I think that's the way I would do it if I was in charge.
How many button-down shirts do you wear in a season, and how many of them just have to be thrown in the trash or burned?
The end of the year, they get burned. I don't know. Quite a few, probably. I mean, I got quite a few in my closet. It's just white button-downs and quite a few. I save the ties each year. If we win a national title, I save the ties.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So we won 4, so I've got 4 ties still available to me. But I like to make less decisions on game day, and so that's why we choose to do that.
Why did you not go to the jogging suit or polo like everybody else did?
Well, this is no disrespect to anybody that's done that. So this is more just my personal thing. I just feel like if you're in any other profession, where you make the amount of money that coaches make at this level, you have to dress professionally and appropriately. And so my thought has always been just a level of professionalism that goes with it. That's just my theory. Now, why do I stick with a blue tie and white shirt? That's just to eliminate decisions. I don't have to try to match colors and stuff like that. It's like already done for me. It's hard to mess it up when you have black pants and white shirts. It's like, man, everything matches with that. So let's go.
You're the absolute opposite of Kim Mulkey.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. No, I don't.
mean,
I'm not that. I'm not real interested in the show. I'm not. No one's there to look at me. No one's there to look at me. They're there to watch my team.
If you don't mind, one other question. You had incredible success where you were. What took so long for a school at the Division I level to give you a chance, or did you have other chances? It just wasn't the right time.
Oh yeah, we've had other chances throughout. It just wasn't the right time or the right fit. And sometimes the timelines don't match up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these jobs are a little different now, where everybody's trying to get out ahead, you know, and you know, almost get their coach before the season's done. And you know, I think sometimes the coaches that you really want, a lot of times, are going to be pretty patient and try to really focus on their team, and you know, not have a divided heart. And so, you know, sometimes I'd miss on them like that, or sometimes it would just be, man, I just didn't feel that one. And because I never needed Division I to prove to myself my worth.
Yep.
Like I don't really need that. Like I feel like, you know, I've got a great wife, I've got great kids, I've got a great family, and you know, I'm concerned with them loving me and all that. And so after that, it's great that people show you love, but you know, I don't need it for my self-confidence or anything like that.
Good luck, Ben. It's a great story. Obviously, Drake, I mentioned the long time ago history when I was younger, but also what has happened lately and what you have them doing. And well, we will be Drake fans the rest of the way. We had Chris Crutchfield on, who was at a junior college that I went to, and now at University of Omaha, and his alma mater, and he's done a great job with them. That's a great story. To me, these are the best stories about March Madness, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris has done a great job. I know him well. They got a great staff, too.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, Ben. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir.
That's Ben McCollum, head basketball coach at Drake. They had a guy named Willie McCarter back in that run. They went to 3 consecutive Final Fours, but during that time, they also had to go up against the UCLA dominance that was, 9 championships in 11 years. And back then it was with Lou Alcindor, then eventually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But that's what the first thing when I see Drake, that's what I go to. And yet again, it's much more modern than that with what they've been able to accomplish. 30-3 this year. And they have played some pretty good teams in Division I. And now they get to the tournament starting, hopefully for them a week from today or tomorrow.
You know, if you were a basketball fan and you weren't completely familiar with Ben McCollum until recently, Ben McCollum is the name for the last 6, 7, 8 years that when coaching searches come up and you see the dark horse name out of, you know, somewhere, again, he won 4 national titles at the Division II level. He's essentially the Kalen DeBoer, Chris Kleiman, Kurt Cignetti of that. You mentioned Kurt Cignetti. So when everybody's like, well, you know, before you run through the names of, you know, oh, we want Calipari or we want this guy, the clever ones are like, well, what about something like Ben McCollum, who's done nothing but win, who's 492 and 78
in his career. It's a crazy record. It's an absolutely crazy record. 4 Division II national championships, numerous tournament titles when he was at Northwest Missouri State and elsewhere. He was a GA there and came back after a couple of 3 or 4 years at Emporia as an assistant and has just done nothing but win. And 30-3 right now for Drake. I'm a Drake fan, and I'm not just talking. I don't know if I'm allowed to even say if I'm a Drake fan as the music guy, because isn't he in?
I wouldn't say that right now.
Yeah.
No,
it's the worst possible time to say that.
Yeah,
his popularity.
I'm a Drake basketball fan. All right, we can do 2 things, guys. We can either go to some of the headlines we didn't get to earlier, do Florida State and the schedule in the next segment on their 2025 schedule.
I'd rather get to some headlines and then we can just have our way with Florida State in the schedule,
like everybody else's.
Yeah,
a little bit later. But yeah, I think let's do some headlines and get that back and squared away after a break.
Here's what you can do. You, when we get to it, you say the game, and then I will respond with the noise my body will make watching that game.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. And that will add up the grunts or the and see what you end up with. There was a story last night. We'll get a break here, Andrew. There's a story last night about a coach in the Big 10 who was fired like right around or just past midnight. There's an interesting note out of UNLV in the contract with Dan Mullen. And also there's a committee now that has been named that will be a part of how they implement the NCAA House settlement, whenever that eventually, of course, April 7th, a big day, and when that actually goes into effect.
Get the lawyers out of college sports. Please get them out of sports soon. I know that's not going to happen.
I couldn't agree more. Let me update you also when we come back on that Houston-Colorado game. Looked like the Cougars will play in the semifinals tomorrow night in Kansas City. This is 365 Sports. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans in the Tower Shopping Center, Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco. Joshua and Cheyenne are there. When it's time for me to get to sleep, I can get wired, and there are times when I have so much that I'm juggling, and a lot of it's really, really good. And then there's days, maybe you have these days in which you got so much going on, or maybe there's a big meeting if you're in sales with a huge sponsor or client, or you just have something that's going on in your life, and you just need to get a good night's sleep. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans, which is known for what they have with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the great brands of cigars, has Vita Dreams. It's a CBD gummy, and you could take one of those, or you learn about how many you need to take, and I promise you, you lay down in bed, maybe you check your phone, maybe you look at a couple of scores, maybe you're staying up late to hope that Kansas survives UCF, but it will eventually, you'll be asleep. It's not like you're drugged. It's not like you're knocked out. It's just you will slowly but carefully, and also you're asleep. And you save 30 minutes to an hour so you don't feel a little bit groggy. And none of that when you wake up. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans with also fresh coffee beans. One of the big favorites is called Cowboy. Imagine that. In the Townwest Shopping Center in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
All right, 365 Sports. We'll have Craig and his Off the Radar a little bit around the corner in this hour. Mickey Spagnuolo around 5:30 on the week of the NFL. First week of free agency. So this was such a big deal because it had been gone for so long, the EA Sports, the college football. It seemed like every day last year we had something about that. Here is this right, the cover of the 2026?
There's
the photo shoot. I mean, is this like everybody wins a ribbon?
That makes you sound so
old.
Yes.
No, I mean... Yeah. There was a cover boy, and then there were 2, and now there's like an entire football, all parade All-American team.
Yeah, I do think that party does this for the collectors who are like, oh, I want this edition or that edition
that
and
makes
all
sense.
that. But I do like, and Max brought this up, the interesting thing is real coaches in the game, because right now you create your own coach. So if we were going to do a Nebraska team, it's David Smoak, and you pick the offense you run and the defense you run, and then
I can't use Osborne.
You could. I named mine Bobby Bowden.
Yeah,
so it was just really hard to make him look like that. So I didn't want to put the pressure on me. I wanted to put it on him. But yeah, it's I like it in that there's it reveals some things, but it does feel a little bit overstuffed here.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't know, like they did a lot of PR stunts last year. Like I can't recall one off the top of my head, but I just feel like they really played the media game really well in terms of the marketing of this game a year ago. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it was inviting testers out that were college football media people or just, I don't know, just some of the things they were doing, like kept this game in the news cycle as much as it was about longing and nostalgia and things like that. So I don't know the reason why I say that, if this was intentionally leaked or not. If it wasn't, I hate that. Like if it wasn't intentionally leaked, why do that? I guess maybe you get a bump from the college website that, you know, puts it out or whatever. But I just think that sucks, man. Like you got all these people right here together for this big photo shoot, and some D-head like just throws it up on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and then it's out there. I don't know. I would rather have it been like a big unveiling, but it doesn't ruin it for me. I think that's kind of a wah-wah sort of way when you've gathered not just people, but just some of the names on this cover: Bryce Underwood, DJ Lagway, Garrett Nussmeier, Jeremiah Love, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, Sam Levitt, Dylan Stewart, just from the players, and that's not even all of them.
That's my boy, right, Paul? Dylan Stewart?
Yeah, that's our guy.
Yeah.
Not to mention that you had the coaches that were involved, like Ryan Day, James Franklin, Dan Lanning, Kenny Dillingham, Kirby Smart, and Lane Kiffin. So those are some of the people that are on that. I just think it's like it's kind of busy looking, but I get that you're trying to get like the Indiana flag in the background, and you got the mascots there in the background. I get you're just trying to touch all bases is basically what this is, as opposed to like, let's throw Arch Manning on the cover. But there's multiple covers, guys. So this is the deluxe edition, as you can very clearly see at the top. So just trying to pack as much on there as you can. They shot this at the Rose Bowl. And so, I think the coaches aspect of it, the inclusion is cool. And not like a real fan of the picture itself, but I get trying to just please everybody, basically, with this particular cover, and we'll see what other ones they come out with. I would be shocked if you don't have like an Arch Manning standalone. Mm-hmm. But then again, you know, last year the main cover was, 3 guys that were on the front with Ewers. So you want to do another Texas quarterback?
It was
It was Ewers, Hunter, and then
Hunter,
Michigan guy who didn't even
Donovan Edwards, and Quinshon Judkins was on there too.
Who?
Judkins was on there too.
Okay, yeah, Judkins. So maybe they'll have another one that's like that with just 4 of the main guys or 3 of the main guys. But yeah, I'd be shocked if like in the next 2 years there's not an Arch Manning standalone edition with as much as he's been hyped up, especially if he delivers. But yeah, I mean, I'll still buy it, but it does seem like a little gloomy for the Rose Bowl, so I think they're going to have to add some sunshine.
Was it not sunny?
It wasn't.
Wow.
It wasn't. I saw some pictures from the photo shoot, and it was overcast and looked like it had been raining, actually, at the Rose Bowl. So that's why, yeah, see, there you go. Yeah. They had the rain going on, so that's why it looks a little bit gloomy. But, I mean, it's cool for people that are into every little piece of information who get excited about the release being around the corner. So, yeah, I like that. I like seeing that. I hope that was a PR tactic and not some rando just blowing the top off like all of these coaches that were there and all of that. But that's social media, and it's hard to get away with keeping secrets these days.
Former players are on the cover. Reggie Bush, Tim Tebow, and Denard Robinson. Former players, a lot of coaches, a handful of them, a lot of players. Yeah, Busy. Wait a minute. I was old when I said it looks like everybody wins a ribbon, but Busy's probably. I don't know where to look.
Everybody wins a ribbon's the old thing that you said. That's
it's just like here's what I think.
Back in my day, we walked.
Okay. Here's what I think. It's almost like they didn't know who to pick. They didn't know who to choose, and so they just said, let's just throw 40 names in here.
I don't think it's that. I think they're trying – I think it's more pandering than anything else.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
They want you – if you're an Alabama fan, they want you to be like, oh, Ryan Williams is on there.
Dude,
Boom.
There's somebody
for everybody.
That's going, look, it's the Indiana flag. Yeah. We're on there. Like, I know there is.
Yeah, it's Tebow. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
This game is blessed by the Lord.
I do want to know when the Tebow Halo edition is going to come out. That's just him on the cover.
Fans,
hands like this.
Yeah, with like.
I mean, they should have that.
Walking on water.
Don't you agree, Paul? He can walk on water on the football field.
So fans repping Texas, is that? I don't see that. I guess I'm not looking close enough into that. That's what they said in this story here. And then what appears to be Toledo, as far as fans representing some schools that are back there. The mascots are cool. That's fine.
I mean, maybe they're under the storm clouds in the very back. I don't know what you're talking about with the fans. I don't see those from where I'm sitting, but maybe if I pull it up on my laptop,
the cover also included mascots from Georgia, Clemson, Oregon, and Tennessee. Indiana flag, you mentioned that, and fans repping Texas and what appears to be Toledo, along with some other schools.
You know what I will tell you about Dynasty Mode? Is that because you're only playing, if you're playing just by yourself, when you go through and you get to the playoff, it is pretty egalitarian. So it wouldn't surprise me if you play through. Toledo might be a team you play in the playoffs. I beat Tulane in the playoffs twice.
Well, aren't you making an easy schedule for yourself?
No, I mean, that's the playoffs. I didn't make it.
Tulane when Mac Brown was there?
No, it's like Tulane now, with whoever the fake, the fake
Willie
Fritz's
Tulane was pretty good, too. Yeah.
So.
All right. We went into it knowing there was a lot of stuff we couldn't get into the first year, so there's a lot of meat left on the
So we tried to shove it all on the cover.
That's from the senior vice president, Daryl Holt.
No, I mean, that's cool. Like, I know we're picking at it, but it's just, it's the offseason. This is what we do. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are very particular about these types of things that have their own ideas of how they would do it. So this is just the deluxe edition. We'll see what the other covers, however many of those there are, come out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't love it, but I understand what they're trying to do, and really, I mean, that's the tale of that's most elements of this. A lot of elements of this are going to be a part of the bigger stories in college football next year. So in that way, they touched as many bases as they possibly could, which is, I'm assuming, what they were going for.
They have a young man on the cover who has not played a snap of college football.
Yeah,
in Bryce Underwood, the young stud quarterback going to Michigan. By the way, DJ Lagwood's a sophomore. He's on the cover.
Yeah.
So they have youth, and then they have the experience, too, of players who have been around and are very highly thought of, and eventually, very soon, next year, will be a part of, you would think, the NFL. All right. There you go. Anything else about that? Now,
no, I mean, not really. I mean, it's cool Kenny Dillingham got on there, so it's not just all SEC and Big Ten players, coaches, and former players. But, yeah, I think, getting a little bit of some other flavor in there is good, and that's great. I mean, Arizona State without that season a year ago is not on any covers, so that goes to show you how how that's kind of boosting them up already, and that's great. So yeah, that's a game I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in year 2. I don't think we'll probably talk about it nearly as much as we did last year, but it's still cool to see that it's up and operating. And I know there's a lot of people that love it and have been playing it for the last year, like Paul obviously and Max obviously. So yeah, round 2, good to have it back.
By the way, Houston wrapped up the win against Colorado. They'll play BYU tomorrow evening in one of the Big 12 semifinals. Oh,
hell
my
of a
God.
game.
Yeah, you're talking about firepower against a defense that plays unbelievable.
Houston plays 3 kinds of games. They play great games, they play really good games, and they play good games. They don't play bad games.
Well, I thought you were going to describe as one of them would be ugly because they make you play that way, but it's beautiful.
No, but
to them.
Tell me a bad game you can remember the last 2 years, bad.
Yeah, no.
When they lose, it's because you fought and scrapped, and
like Tech in Houston.
Yeah, like you fought and scrapped, and you got the breaks when you needed to. But they don't have games where they go out and all of a sudden they're down 19 points, and Kelvin's like, we got to reshuffle the deck here. It's not like that. They're amazing.
No, their losses by 5 to Auburn, number 1 ranked team in the country for most of the year, by 5 to Alabama, who has been number 1 at times this year, and by 3 to San Diego State, who's a hell of a basketball school. Dan Mullen, UNLV, hired because Barry Odom is now at Purdue. This was interesting. The university, of course, has had some issues with their funds and budget and all of that. They may not, according to the athletic director, have enough in the budget to pay more than his first 2 years of his contract. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but that was mentioned. And Dan Mullen, right there, a picture when he was introduced at UNLV as the head coach.
Yeah, this not good news in the short term. I would think that they could figure it out.
Only have the funds to pay for the first 2 years of his 5-year, $17.5 million contract.
Maybe they're hoping in 2 years he gets hired by somebody else and they don't have to worry about it and they could just do this all over again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the pitfalls of UNLV, though, is that for as much as Vegas is booming and Vegas is the great sports destination now in America. By the way, the Sphere is failing. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but it's losing tons of money. Or it's not quite thriving the way that you would hope if you were the MSG folks that were part of that project. But we had who was our UNLV fan? That was
Phil.
Phil Venzer.
It was all about, them in realignment, and we talked about them. And for the Pac-12, we talked about them. For the Big 12, we talked about them. I mean, we probably even connected them to the ACC at some point. I mean, they're a program that has fans like Phil that very much want to see them go up a level. But, I think this is not a good look, obviously. And it's going to be hard to hang if you're sitting there so short-strapped that you've only got a couple years. Now, I don't know how all this stuff works, so I don't want to get too in the weeds and sound like I know exactly what I'm talking about with this, but it's not a good headline. That's for damn
not
sure.
At all.
So I don't know what that all ultimately means for them. I'm sure there's probably some catch to it that if I read it later on tonight, they're like, yeah, but they have a something that he can, if they're successful, he'll be just fine. But, yeah, until then, that's a not great headline that – doesn't really paint them in a glowing light, but I do think Dan Mullen was a hell of a hire for them, and they ought to win a lot of football games in these next 2 years. And then if they don't, maybe they don't worry about having to pay him beyond that point, but I think he'll have some success there.
All right, another football note. Of course, we had the Brett Yormark quote to start the show on his thoughts about automatic qualifiers and what he would like to see, although that may not be the case. At least he's out there saying it. The NCAA, the House Committee, will have their say April the 7th. So who's going to run this thing? We know about Deloitte, and LBI Software is the one who will manage a lot of it, including even how much of a value a player should have when they get an NIL deal, etc. But they are drafting up proposal and how to manage it. I mean, we hear about the House settlement, but what does it actually mean? And I finally started to myself look a little bit more. Here are the names of the athletic directors who will be a part of the committee, the implementation committee. Trev Alberts, A&M. Scott Barnes at Oregon State, Kentucky's Mitch Barnhart. Jay Batt of Georgia Tech. Ross Bjork, Ohio State, was at A&M. Pat Chun, Washington. John Cunningham from Cincinnati. We've had him on the show. Graham Neff, Clemson. Washington State's Ann McCoy. And Desiree Reed-Francois, who's new as the AD at Arizona. So I went and looked. I said, okay, hey, how many? There's nobody more than 2 in any conference on this implementation. This is not a committee to decide who should play. This is to decide how they're going to implement the rules once they are hammered out by the judge and eventually agreed upon, hope God, anytime soon after April 7th, and who's going to at least put this together.
And decide punishments and rule-breaking things. Like they're going to do that. And, of course, their goal should be less than 7 years to figure out what someone did wrong.
Yeah.
That's a goal. Like, if you start out like, hey,
once the coach is already at his other school and has been there for like 3 years and the other guys involved are already in the NFL or working lawyer jobs or something.
Yeah, when the guy who did it, like, you can walk back and say, like, this is my son. He's 11.
Yeah. 2 from the SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and also the Pac-12. So everybody, all those conferences, at least for now, are well represented.
Everybody gets a ribbon.
There we go. Everybody has to be. I want this one more story. The Minnesota fired Ben Johnson as their men's basketball coach. I saw this headline by Kyle Boone and Matt Norlander. They had it. Ruthless decision came overnight after a first-round exit from the Big Ten tournament. Gophers were 15-17. Apparently, Johnson, early this morning, made an announcement on social media at 2:19 Eastern Time. The team's season-ending loss said that Johnson was no longer the head coach. Apparently, the Mark Coyle, the AD, is a part of the selection committee, the NCAA tournament selection committee, and it was tied up. He wasn't very far away from where Minnesota lost, but there were thoughts about, man, why would you not have done this earlier? And maybe he could have or should have or whatever. I don't know what time Minnesota ended their season. I don't know. But 19-15 last year, and then this year back under 500. And this decision was announced at 1:19 Central Time overnight that Ben Johnson is out at Minnesota.
All I can tell you is I don't know if we can complain about a 6:30 p.m. news dump again. Feel bad for who's covering that for the Gophers.
Yeah, but we had one every week.
Yeah, but even still, 6:30, that's a bummer. But 2:30 a.m., yeah, that's
At least you get to sleep in the next morning.
Good
job.
Yeah.
There was, and I saw some back and forth on why it was ruthless because it was so late at night when the AD Coyle, I guess, met with Ben Johnson. But Coyle wasn't in town. He wasn't that far away. But that's when the meeting took. Is there ever a good time
ruthless
to get fired?
is Lane Kiffin on the tarmac. And that was still deserved. But, just firing a guy after their season ended, basically. I don't think there's anything. It's just, is the time of night's what bothers people, I guess, is what you're saying? Then, I don't know. Alerts hit the same 24 hours a day. So when you woke up to pee in the middle of the night or something, you saw that rather than seeing it at 9:30 in the morning. I don't think it makes much of a difference, though.
Ruthless is Jerry firing Tom Landry.
Yeah, that's ruthless.
While he's wearing shorts.
And on the golf course.
Basically calling him in off the golf course and being like, Tom, we're going to go a different direction. Yeah. Thank you for all your help. You built this team. And thinking Tom Landry is going to be like, you know what, Jerry? And you're right.
And of all, maybe one of the nicest, not that Landry didn't cut players and do some, one of the nicest human beings you could ever imagine. Hey, Tom, how far are you out? 150. Hit a 7-iron, and then I got to talk to you a little bit about something. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar, and this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. 5 locations in Waco. Fastest growing pizza brand in America. And they have the Marco's More menu. For $7.99, you could spend, and then anything after that on a pizza, it's $5, whatever ingredient you want to add to it. So it's up to you on how much you want to add and how much you want to spend. And you can go online to order that with a code word of More menu. It's Marco's Pizza. 5 locations. Bob Mock, the owner here, a hell of a great sponsor of what we do with 365 Sports, and they have you go to their website. It's just not something that's like blah. It's got movement. It's got the specials. It's got code words. Either you have it delivered or you pick it up. You order it online, or you could call them or drop by and let them make it while you're there. With the locations where you are, where we are, Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Welcome into 365 Sports. Time for a little off the radar and just taking a look at some different stories that I've cherry-picked over the last few hours, last few days, and got a trio of stories to talk about today. I want to start off with some Big 12 eats. Been trying to get to this for the last few days since the menu was announced with the women's tournament and now the men's tournament as well. But Big 12 Eats has become a thing under Brett Yormark. You can go look on Twitter right now and see plenty of people who are talking about their experiences right now at the arena, eating the Baylor brisket sliders or the Houston Shasta's brisket tacos and things like that. I actually love this. I think it's a really cool idea. I don't know how many other conferences do something similar, but I think to have a unique dish or something for every team is freaking cool. I like that. I like that a lot. So I don't know how good all of it is, and that's why you can go look up the hashtag Big 12 Eats, and you can see some of the actual responses from people there. And I've seen a couple of people, like there's some random, I don't know who he was even a fan of, maybe like Houston or something. He's like, I just tried the whatever brisket sliders. Those are pretty good. They're not as good as the UCF Citronut drink, but and so that's kind of fun to see that, the people that are going and trying as many of these items as possible. And the thing this year is there's not really much of a change, but there are 4 new dishes and 1 turnover from last year. Pretty much everybody's got the same dish that they had a year ago. There is one exception, however, and that is Kansas State, who has apparently gone from PB&J last year, the Power Cat PB&J, which was a fried PB&J sandwich, they've changed that up. And they are the only of the returning schools that has made a change that I noticed, at least. And now this year, K-State's going with the Power Cat Steak Tacos. So from fried PB&J to Power Cat Steak Tacos.
Well, that's an upgrade, at least in, fanciness.
Yes.
Well, and it includes their name.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Power Cat, which I think is like one of their websites. That's a fan website.
Yeah. Well, Power Cat PB&J did as well. But, it's an upgrade, certainly, from fried PB&J. Although I'm sure there's plenty of people that would have fried PB&J over.
Yeah.
How do you fry? Because the State Fair does
Here's
this.
the thing.
Fried ice cream. How?
Oh, here, you just dip it in batter and then you fry it. The fried Dr. Pepper is the one that's really high science. What they do is they take Dr. Pepper and they infuse it into the batter. Then they fry that. But
I can see that working.
That is, look,
but
here's the thing.
My thing is, wouldn't that just evaporate anything liquid?
Yeah, it's
the heat.
Yeah, the way they do it, it's pretty brilliant. Some of these people, the State Fair Foods, should be working on like other scientific projects because way they get it done, I think like global warming, climate change, I think if we put these guys on it, they could figure out a way like, hey, this is how we trap the greenhouse gases. We just batter dip it.
Well, by the sounds of it, we're going to have a lot more of these items that are going to be being worked on by scientists moving forward.
Yeah.
So you have the K-State Power Cat Taco shift. So that was the one changeover from last year. A lot of these, like I was advocating when they first started this, like you could do like the signature dish. Like you need Skyline chili for Cincinnati, right? Well, they don't have Skyline chili exactly. They did something in line with that where they use like Cincinnati chili for the cheese coney. So that's cool. Cougar tails for BYU. Well, they didn't do exactly the Cougar tail, but they did like the churros. And so that's right there in line with that and very much in the same vein. So Cosmos Churros is back. Orange Power Pizza for Oklahoma State. And we talked a bit about those. So to the 4 new items, though, the reason why we were here with the 4 new schools, Arizona. Does anything spring to mind for you with Arizona cuisine?
Cactus?
No, they have really good Mexican food in Arizona. Really good. It's different than Tex-Mex. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So they were in line with that. Wildcat Mini Chicken Chimichangas is what they ended up going for with Arizona. Wildcat Mini Chicken Chimichangas. Arizona State, I don't know, how much the local cuisine ties in here or if it's just a good item, but just pretty plain smoked boneless wings. So if you just want to get some smoked boneless wings, that's what Arizona State's offering is for
I'm not
the
a
Big
boneless
12
wings
eats.
guy. I like it to be the drumettes or the wing flapper.
You're not. Listen, they're chicken nuggets. They say boneless wings.
Yeah, that's all they are.
It's a chicken
like
nugget.
Big chicken nuggets in some cases.
Yeah, it's a chicken. Like they call it boneless wings so that you don't feel like you're 7.
Right.
But it's
like the adult chicken nugget.
Yeah. It's also a way of making sure your hands don't get real.
Yeah. They could make them in the like if they made them in the shape of a dinosaur, you'd have no way out.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So that is where they went was basically big chicken nuggets, adult chicken nuggets for Arizona State. Now smoked boneless wings for Arizona State. Colorado gets the chili burrito bowl. So that is where they went with the Buffaloes. Again, I don't know enough about like the local cuisine and how certain things tie in. I don't know if there'd be a better Colorado cuisine that's more localized to Boulder that would have made more sense. But chili burrito bowl for Colorado. And then for Utah, they got like a fancy, the Majerus special. So they went like all in on them.
Whoa, this one could be bad for your health.
It's probably not good. It's probably big.
It is a pastrami smash burger.
I love it.
There you go. There you go.
So, the pastrami smash burger, they went a little bit above for the Utah Utes there and getting the Majerus treatment. So, the Majerus special pastrami smash burger was where they went for the Utes. So, there's your 4 new Big 12 Eats entries. Another one that was kind of in line with the local that I should have mentioned along with, like, Cincy at least having, like, the chili on the coney, but not straight up just Skyline chili, like West Virginia with the pepperoni rolls. Like I like that at least there's some thought put into some of the local stuff. The Citronaut drink for UCF, so I like that every year, and it's always fun to take a glance at that.
What is in it?
The what?
The Citronaut.
That's basically like an Orange Julius is
all
what
right.
that is, which is what I would do for them, actually. They call them, one of their nicknames is Citronauts. I actually, like, when I thought about this before they leaned more into the regional, I was like, they need to do Skyline Chili for Cincy and Cougar Tails for BYU. And when I got to UCF, I was like, something like an Orange Julius. And so that's actually the route they went with them. So I like that.
I love a good Orange Julius.
Yeah, man.
You can get them at Dairy Queen now.
I actually think, can you? I haven't been to Dairy Queen in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm part of the problem. That's part of why they're closing restaurants here.
Are they
lately.
really?
Yeah.
You know what I think part of the problem
They just closed one in Waco.
They have some of the best tacos.
Yeah, they do. One I think part of the problem Dairy Queen had is they had this really cool Super Texan dude that was the guy that was at Dairy Queen. You can get a hunger buster at a large blizzard for $1.99.
Wasn't he in Tombstone?
Yeah, and then they would like their guy, like now they still say DQ. That's what I like about Texas. But it's like somebody who could be like a Rascal Flatts backup singer as opposed to like DQ.
Yeah. No, they lost their Texan because it's like Whataburger. Whataburger's not Texan at all anymore. Like they still try to promote that, but it's not Texas owned. It's not. I think it's everywhere, but the quality's clearly gone down at Whataburger. Like it used to be really, really good, and now it's just like kind of okay, fine, good.
That's why Hooters is filing bankruptcy.
Right. They're all going down.
Hooters decided years ago, like, hey, we could save so much more money and do stock buybacks if we bought shitty chicken. And then they're like, okay, good. And then people are like, why
use
is
a different
bad?
oil? Maybe they started.
Exactly.
It's got to be
cheap,
so
bad
greasy.
ingredients.
Yeah,
bad ingredients.
There you go with Big 12 Eats. Now another quick story here. Tim Cato, longtime writer when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. He works for the All City Group. So would his website be DLLS? Isn't that what you explained to me?
Yeah, DLLS.
So I guess when he does Dallas-specific stuff, it'd be DLLS, but he does NBA writing for All City and was a part of The Athletic prior to that. Well, he apparently puts out like a yearly poll and gauges his readers, subscribers on – I don't know how in-depth he goes because, I to be perfectly honest, before this year, I've never noticed it before. But he, I guess, apparently annually puts out like some questions at the end of a season or in the midst of the season, what have you, on some big topics and gets the responses of Dallas Mavericks fans. And I swear to you, I'm over this, but yet there's more stories like this that come out that just hammer home my feelings on this. So he had a couple of questions that he sent out and got responses on that revolve around the Mavericks fans' feelings about the Luka Doncic trade a few weeks removed now. Now that him and LA are like soaring up the standings and are clearly in the playoff hunt, and the Mavericks are flailing, and basically the other night they played with 7 guys because they're so banged up. So he asked a couple of questions to gauge a few weeks removed how the Luka Doncic trade has affected particular Mavericks fans, and he got 5,320 responses. So that's a pretty good sample size for this exercise. And I will start off with the one question he had about how has the Doncic trade affected how often you watch Mavericks games. And this is 5,320 people that responded. So of the how much has the trade affected how often you watch Mavericks games, there were 3 options. Watch more often, no change, and watch less often. How has the Doncic trade affected how often people watch? 84.7% of the 5,300-plus people say they watch less often than they did prior to the trade.
Yeah.
So nearly 85% of Mavs fans. 14% said there was no change. So to me, those are the people that they're just Mavericks fans. Like, it's not about who owns the team or it's not about who the stars are. It's like you're just a Mavericks fan regardless. So they had no change whatsoever, just 14%. And then the remaining, 1.3% said they watch more often. So clearly they're one of two things. They're trolls that get some kind of kick out of just lying for no real reason, or they're gamblers probably. So it doesn't matter who's on the team. You're betting on the Mavericks and therefore watching them regardless because there's no one on earth. Well, there's actually a third group. Some random-ass Anthony Davis super fan or something who's like, the Mavericks are awesome now.
He has feelings too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could use those on the court. But
why would
we
you
haven't
watch
seen
him? Because he's not playing anyway.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like there's only so many people that would say watch more often. So I tend to believe of like the less than 2% of that was just trolls basically. So 85% about say they watch less often. Well done, Mavericks ownership. But the real damning part of the poll was how has the Doncic trade affected your fandom thus far? And they had multiple options here. There's more engaged, no change, less engaged, much less engaged, and then no longer a fan / reconsidering fandom. So of the 5,000 plus people, the majority option, 45% say they are no longer a fan or are reconsidering their fandom. So that is 5,000 people alone that are 4,500, 5,000 people. Nearly half the poll said they are no longer a fan or they are going to go root for another NBA team. That's the camp I'm in. So I just feel good that I am clearly not alone, and there's a lot of other people that have jumped off. The second biggest percentage said much less engaged. 34.5% said much less engaged. The third option, highest voted, was less engaged, not much less engaged, but less engaged, 13.2%. So nearly half the poll says they're not even watching, they're not even involved now at this point. They're either not rooting for a team like me or they're going to go jump on another team, which I refuse to do. But that's nearly half. And then 34.5, much less, 13.2 less engaged. So I suck at math, but that's 70, 80, 89, nearly 95% of this poll is less of a Mavericks fan or not at all of a Mavericks fan than they were before out of 5,300 voters.
Okay, I know you're done. And I know you. When you're done, you're done. Paul, I know you love the Cowboys despite their failures or their frustrations. I have never in my life ever changed who my favorite team is. Maybe that's just my generation. The Redskins were horrific for 2.5 decades. Nebraska's been really not good for a couple of decades. But is it because I had so many great memories as I was younger, and so no matter what, I've already had that scratch of my itches of a fan? Or is it, I don't understand how you can just drop a team. Now, Craig, you had a unique situation.
Well, I'm not, I mean, here's the thing. I'm just not, it's not like I'm going to being a Timberwolves fan.
Yeah. No,
I just don't care. Like, I don't have a team, and that's okay. I don't need to watch the NBA all the time. That's fine. I'll be okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm frustrated with the Cowboys, but here's the thing that's different about the Cowboys. The Cowboys would never do what the Mavericks just did.
No, that's the thing. It's like
they would
unique.
Never do it.
No, they're going to hold on to their stars.
Exactly. They would never do it. Like, I've seen a lot of, like...
Dude, this is the Chiefs trading Patrick Mahomes almost
like 2 years ago.
27 years old.
I've seen a lot of click farming lately about, the Cowboys could trade Micah Parsons. And I'm like, no. Like, the only way Micah Parsons leaves is if he gets angry enough to leave and then just
He loves the publicity too much.
Exactly. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. So that's not how the Jones work. They don't trade their stars. They get every last drop out of them, and then they go. That is actually one of the things I think they do fairly well is they retain their own very well, and they treat their own pretty well.
Until they just can't.
Yeah. Until it's just
like DeMarcus Ware.
Ezekiel Elliott, DeMarcus Lawrence, like just right now.
Smith.
Yeah, it's until it's just that
this
point.
Would be trading away Emmitt Smith 5 years into his career.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not even that. But in the Patrick Mahomes comparison, I'm not talking in terms of championships. I'm talking about generational talents that your fan base absolutely loves and are prepared to worship for the next decade.
And when the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts, I had like a brief moment of like, come on. But here's what I know about them. When they do things like this, eventually they come back. For Mavericks fans, there is no history with this ownership group at all about coming back and making this right. So in the way that they've handled it all together has been bad. So it would lead me to believe if I was a Mavericks fan that, no, they don't really care about what I think. This is just another page in their portfolio.
Yep.
And because of that, I can't trust them to go get the next Luka, the next Dirk, the next guy who's going to be a young star forever. That's why none of my teams I don't think their ownership would ever do that.
Yeah, the Mavericks have had a history of trading away Mark Aguirre, among others, but it wasn't like crippling.
No, guys, if Mark Cuban was the owner, it'd be one thing. This is a brand new group,
Yeah.
and one of the first things they've done is
It's
trade
just
away
alienate
the
themselves.
face of the franchise who everybody loved.
Heck,
And now they're
yeah.
all focused on trying to get sports gambling in their new arena. They don't deserve my fandom. They've done nothing to earn my fandom. So just interesting, 92.7% of 5,000-plus votes are lesser or not at all fans than they were. That's pretty damning. That is pretty damning for Dallas. Meanwhile, Patrick Dumont, their governor, apparently spoke at some event, and he was talking about how the move was for the future. So they're still backing the move. I mean, you have really no other choice at this point. You can't reverse it. So they're leaning into it, and, we'll see what it looks like. But that pretty much says it all as far as how the fandom feels, and I think there's going to be repercussions that last for a few years, but we'll see. All right, final thing here real quick. The Tampa Bay Rays have announced that their plans for their new stadium, $1.3 billion stadium in St. Petersburg, because of the hurricane that messed up the roof at the Tropicana, at the Tropicana like they're in Vegas, at Tropicana Field, and also delays and just money and all of those types of things. They are not going to proceed with the development of the $1.3 billion stadium in St. Petersburg, according to their principal owner. They've concluded they cannot move forward with the new ballpark at this moment due to a series of events that began in October that nobody could have anticipated. He said their commitment to the vitality and success of the Rays organization is unwavering, and so they will focus on the best interest of the region, MLB, and their organization. So they were scheduled to play 3 more seasons at Tropicana Field once it was repaired. But it's unplayable right now. And where are they playing in a few years? That becomes the big question, because this is one failed stadium deal after another. It's like, at what point are you just out of options if you're the Tampa Bay Rays? But
I think there's a great chance that they're playing in Portland, Nashville, Charlotte, or Orlando.
Okay.
Because they want to build it in Ybor City, like in that area, which kind of needs a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
It would be great because it has an infrastructure of where you could, like, there's already bars and restaurants and things around it, but more things would move in. Like, that would be a rejuvenation that makes sense. Like, moving it in St. Petersburg, like keeping it in St. Petersburg, I don't care where you move, is a bad idea. It's a horrible idea based on what the population will always be in St. Petersburg, which are people who are not young. Like, yes, they're not like all old people, but the younger population is in Tampa. Or if they really want a younger population, go to Orlando, a city that can sustain something like that. They've proven with the Magic over time, maybe better, or they're going to get sold and move to Nashville or something like that.
There's probably going to be a new owner here soon, and so we'll see what all happens. But, yeah, the Rays not moving forward with that expected project, so it's another hiccup for them, and we'll see what their future holds. But it's as much what in doubt now as it has been in and it's been in doubt plenty of times, but now it's as in doubt, you would think, as probably ever with that deal off.
Just think about it. Mother Nature here they are trying to move forward with a new stadium, and then this happened.
Well, if somebody was asking for a sign, they got it when the hurricane ripped through through Tropicana's
The big
ceiling.
dude upstairs said, you need to move.
Hey, here's what he said. This place sucks. Yeah. It's horrible for your fans. They shouldn't be. It's not even nice enough to hold a truck pole. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
So there's a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. That is such. Mom and Dad lived there. A lot of my relatives lived in that Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. It's like a bad case of cholesterol, and all you do is keep feeding more fat into it. Your body. It's just never going to get any looser. It's a horrible traffic problem.
Oh, traffic is what you sounds like. What are you talking about?
I got traffic. It took me a while.
Usually in stadiums to alleviate traffic, I'll use Kyle Field as an example, which is Kyle Field is a very big thing.
It's 105,000 big
in the middle of a very big campus, in the middle of a small city. Like, Bryan College Station is not a metropolis, but they moved the traffic out of there really well for a stadium with 105,000 people because they designed it that way. If you go to...
It's because they have engineers, Paul.
Yeah, if you go... Yeah, exactly. It doesn't appear that that's who designed the parking lot singular
that's a good point.
at the Tropicana Field where there's like 2 ways in and one way out.
There's a bridge like about a mile away that goes across the Gulf that's like 2-way traffic.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's crazy. All right. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. When we come back, we'll have the Florida State schedule. We will have sound effects with this one.
That was the first noise.
What's a sound effect of good?
Well, let's find out next.
Yeah, we'll find out. I don't know.
All right, we'll tease
I'm going to react.
All right. A&M and Texas going down to the wire in the SEC as they are playing in a second-round game there. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. What is it? It's past this week for you to be able to order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. But if you do, while the live crawfish are still in season, we got a long way to go. You can order live crawfish, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish at Waco Custom Marketplace, and then pick up what you order. Could be 2, 3, or 4 30-pound sacks, bags that you're having a shrimp and crawfish boil. $4.70 a pound right now. You can call and order it, but this week it's too late. Next week you can get locked in on that. Specials for this week: fresh salmon at $12.25 a pound. They also have the 16 to 20 pieces in a pound or bag of easy peel shrimp. I love shrimp. There is nothing you could do to shrimp unless it was disgusting that I would not eat it. And they have I've told you about this. They have a butcher shop, but the butcher shop is not just beef, but pork and poultry. But they have the seafood, live lobster in a tank. But they also, every once in a while, will have tiger shrimp, which, as you know, if you don't, it's a lot bigger piece of shrimp, not lobster style, but it's pretty good. I use that whenever I want to do really good bacon-wrapped shrimp. And they can give you what you need when it comes to any kind of outdoor cooking, whether it's brisket or tri-tip or more. They have phenomenal steaks that will cut them, custom made for you. I usually get 4 to 6 to 8 bone-in or boneless ribeyes. I will call them and I'll say I want it at just a little bit below 1.25 inches. I'll get there. They'll have them wrapped up for me where I can put them in the freezer and or cook them that particular night. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store off Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
This guy who we just hear introduce this segment needs to do the Dairy Queen commercials.
Yeah, Jim Cutler?
Yeah, absolutely. The Cutler family is fantastic. Don and Jim Cutler. Craig, Florida State.
Yep, Florida State. As we're a little bit better, probably a former lead-in, but yeah, we're doing the schedule routine here, looking at the upcoming schedules, and today is Florida State on the docket. So last year, Florida State 2-10, missed the bowl game. This, of course, on the heels of the big controversy getting left out of the college football playoff, of which they had a major case of legitimate gripes, but man, did not walk the walk, I should say, the following year. They talked the talk all offseason and then walked right into a 2-10 year. Paul, what was your favorite moment from last year? Was it the 14-9 win over Cal at home, or was it the blowout of Charleston Southern late in the year?
It was beating Cal because of the Calgorithm. Like that was satisfying and remains satisfying, considering that was their only ACC win. And, those nerds at Cal talked a lot of crap and rolled into tally and lost.
The nerds won. Or, excuse me, lost. Yeah, sorry.
Cal lost,
Yeah, 14-9.
Now, well, they must suck then if they went into tally and got rolled.
Yeah, they didn't get rolled. It was 14-9, but, it was one of those things where it was like, all right, good for you guys. You didn't go 0-5. You're now 1-4, and then they proceeded to lose their next 6.
Yep. So pretty rough year. A couple of wins, and that was it. Blowout loss to Florida. Blowout loss to SMU. Beat up by Clemson. Blowout loss to Miami. Blowout loss to Notre Dame. Blowout loss to North Carolina. I mean, they didn't get just beat. They got whooped.
Yeah. You know what the other first was last year? As Mac Brown went out the door, that was the first time that he'd ever beaten his alma mater.
Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
That's
good
right.
for him.
Yeah.
Good for Mac on out the door. So that was last year. DJ Uiagalelei is not back. They instead went and poached a new quarterback from within the ACC, and Thomas Castellanos. We'll see how that works out for them. But, of course, this is not a preview of the team itself, just of the schedule. So taking a look at the schedule for Florida State in 2025, they open play on Saturday, October the 30th. And they open up with a pretty massive game, the biggest game on the schedule, just on paper, outside of your normal rivalries. It is the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Holy God.
Right there at the start of the season, Saturday, August the 30th. It'll be Seminoles and the Tide. And this is not a series that has been played very often at all. They've played 4 times. Alabama's won 3 of those, and there was a tie. So Florida State would like to get their first ever win, and the tie is not even a tie, it's a vacated win. Was actually a Florida State Bobby Bowden win, but it got vacated, so it doesn't count as a loss.
Over whom, by the way? Nick Saban in his first year.
Yep, 2007, Florida State beat them 21-14, but that got vacated, so that counts as a tie rather than as a loss. So the all-time series is 3-1-0 in favor of Alabama. They last played in 2017 in Atlanta. Was that a playoff game?
No. That was at the beginning of the season. It's when DeAndre Francois' knee exploded.
I love that guy. He didn't turn out to be very good at the end. He was. I
That's
thought he
right.
was their
That's-
version
okay,
of
yeah.
Tommy Frazier. Not that thick, strong type guy, but
I was hopeful for him.
He was
and
just a
then,
smooth-looking athlete is what he
he was. And then, that play, I can see it in my head right now where, everybody went, ow.
That's not good.
Yeah, that's bad.
So that was the last time they met was in that game, and should have looked into that. But that's why we have you here as the encyclopedia for Florida State. So it's been a few years since they last played. So they will play on Saturday, August the 30th. Then the following week, Florida State gets East Texas A&M, formerly known as
Kendall Paul.
Texas A&M Commerce.
Glad he's not going to be there.
Yeah.
That will be in Tallahassee, and then they get a break. So 2 games and a break. Alabama, East Texas A&M, and then their first bye.
Yeah, here's the noise I'll make for Alabama. I just don't. I'm fearful of it because their coach is in year 2, and that's where he
He's
can
got
really
some proving to
sing
do,
things
though,
he
man.
does.
He'll have a forced sale sign in his yard if he doesn't win that game.
But they do have a lot. Who's their quarterback at Alabama? What's going on there?
Which blue chip will they select?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is that guy any good? Of course they have Ryan Williams, so if the play is throw the ball to Ryan Williams, I'm not sure Florida State's going to defend that really well, but they haven't really had a great running game outside of Milroe in the last couple of years, so maybe
Yeah, but he's got his coaches with him now.
But I would say that playing Alabama the first game out of the box off of 2-10 is not ideal.
No, it's not. So that's in Tallahassee, though, so we'll see how that goes. If you want to bet on it right now, Alabama's already 8-point favorites. So there's that. East Texas A&M.
Which means they're really 11-point favorites.
Probably. But East Texas A&M at least gets you halfway to last year's win total if you lose that Alabama game.
Clint Dozell. You remember him? We were in Arena League quarterback, I think, with Dallas when they had that Arena League team that was so good.
Yeah.
Did he play for Commerce or something?
He's a coach at Commerce.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a head coach. But he was, I don't know if he ever was actually in the NFL, but he was in the Arena League for quite some time.
All right, so after East Texas A&M, they get a break, and then it is Kent State on Saturday, September the 20th. So they will close out their non-conference slate there with Kent State, who was absolutely one of the worst teams in the country last year. So they should be 2-1 at worst. I mean, that's for damn sure. They should at least be 2-1, and if not, then they are in a big old heap of trouble. And Norvell's probably not there very much longer, but they'll be 2-1 at least. Then on September the 26th, they get one of 2 Friday games on the schedule, as they will be on the road at the Virginia Cavaliers to open ACC play on a Friday night. Then the following Saturday, the big rivalry game with the Miami Hurricanes. The following Saturday, October the 11th, you get Pitt at home, so back-to-back home games there in the middle of the schedule and at the start of the ACC. And then on Saturday, October the 18th, they will travel all the way across the country to Northern California to take on their blood rival in the ACC, the Stanford Cardinals. So there's that second segment. You get Kent State at home. That should be a win. At Virginia, Miami at home, Pitt at home, and then at Stanford before you get your second bye week. And then what will be a pretty, nice 5-game stretch to close the season that we'll get to.
All right, here's how I'll respond emotional noise-wise. Kent State, okay.
Yeah.
Virginia, doesn't scare me. Yeah. Dear God, I don't know about Miami. I don't know. I have no idea. Last year was a bloodbath. But, of course, the year before that was a bloodbath in the other direction. So I don't know how it's going to go. Pitt scares the crap out of me, so that's more of the, oh, dear God. Because of Eli Holstein. And then Stanford, all right, nerds, we're coming to you.
Whatever. Yeah.
We're coming to you. So
It'll be a cool road trip, though. I mean, that's a beautiful part of the country for anybody that heads out that way. So there's at least that. But then they do get a break after that Stanford game, and it's the third leg of the season. So with that early bye week, they go 2-5-5, which is another unique setup in terms of the schedules we've gone over, which is like 20 at this point. So in that third and final leg on Saturday, November the 1st, it'll be Wake Forest at home. Then Saturday, November the 8th, at Clemson.
Oh, boy.
Saturday, November 15th, home against the Virginia Tech Hokies, which, man, if there's a team from my childhood that's just lost a lot of luster, it's the Virginia Tech program. But Va-Tech, who, could be okay. We got a quarterback we know pretty well.
Yeah.
Then on November the 21st, another Friday game, their second of 2 Friday games at NC State. And then they close it the following week with an extra day to prepare for their other hated rival, the Florida Gators, in the swamp of Gainesville on November the 29th. So back-to-back road games to close out the season. 3 out of their last 4 games to close the season are on the road at Clemson, at NC State, and at Florida. And then, as I mentioned, 2 Friday games. Some of the teams they miss out on, they don't play Duke, which might be a good thing. They don't play North Carolina, so you won't see Belichick. They don't play Boston College. They don't play Louisville. They don't play SMU. They don't play Georgia Tech. So there's a few teams there that you probably would pick against them.
And last year, part of the reason they were already bad, but their schedule wound up being even harder than they thought. So I think that when you look at this one, it's a little bit lighter than it was last year, but that's just assuming that none of these teams are better, like Virginia Tech and NC State. They could turn around and be just like Georgia Tech, but Wake Forest, not worried about that. Clemson is going to be, I don't know. I don't think, oh, dear God. That's just I'm nauseous.
You can't even hope that Klubnik's not very good still. He's he's good.
Turned
that around last year.
Yeah, he's good. And they're in the third year of the system too, which is only going to make him better. Virginia Tech, don't really know. NC State, they never play well at Carter Finley. Never play well at Carter Finley.
Isn't that weird how there's
it's just they win games, but it's always how did they do that? I remember asking Christian Ponder about it. His probably lowest moment as a quarterback at Florida State was he's going to run in for the winning touchdown at the end of the game and just drop the ball. Didn't get hit. He just dropped.
He wasn't celebrating too early?
No, he was carrying it. It just fell out of his hands. And then, of course,
thank God that happened in that era and not in this era because people would be crying rigged and,
Yeah, it was just not great. And then at Florida to end the year, I think the Gators are going to be excellent. I really do.
Well, as long as they keep Lagway healthy.
If they get Lagway, if they keep Lagway upright and allow him to be DJ Lagway, that's really scary.
So first 3 weeks are all at home. You don't leave until your 4th game of the season. But, yeah, then you do make up for the road games in that second half for sure.
I want to go back to the Alabama game in 2007. Craig, thank you very much. Who's next? Georgia Tech? Are they tomorrow? Would that be next on the
off the top of my head, that's who would be next. Paul, are they going bowling? They should with this schedule.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, they've got to me 2 automatic baked in wins in a row in East Texas A&M and Kent State. Virginia, I'm not scared of them at all. Stanford, not scared of them at all. And between Wake Forest, NC State, and Virginia Tech, they should be able to find at least a 6th win. And I do think that they will be better. I think Thomas Castellanos works well, in that offense. Their offensive line will be improved because it can't get worse than letting every single person die.
How many times have you watched the DJ Uiagalelei 2024 highlight tape on YouTube?
None.
I wonder if that even exists.
I got you.
Actually,
I was at his last game against SMU. Where he got hurt. So it's
it wasn't just him. I mean, he was a big part of it, but yeah,
it was. The offensive line was already bad,
Right.
and then early on in the season, he gave them no faith. I remember talking to somebody. They said, well, the skill players stink. I'm like, how do you know?
Yeah.
Nobody can get him the ball.
What's Castellano? How big is he?
He's little.
big.
He's like 5'10".
I remember last year watching him play. He was fun to watch.
He's a water bug.
Yeah.
He has a bit of a turnover issue. And then we don't really know what happened. He quit on the team last year in Boston College. But I'm going to give him the Bill O'Brien can kind of be a jackass card.
you're gonna give him the Homer card is what you're going to give him. Like,
yeah,
well, he's with us now, and I'm just saying.
But I mean, here's the thing. He wasn't the one I was hoping for in the transfer portal, but he has kicked their ass twice. Once where he did win and once where he didn't.
Yeah.
So
third school for him. He started off with UCF.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Georgia Tech is part of that tomorrow as we go day to day, getting through the largest conference in America, the ACC.
And we got Mickey now.
Mickey Spagnola joins us. Cowboys, of course, have had a week along with everybody else in the NFL with the start of NFL and free agency, trades, etc. Mickey, hello. How you been,
Hello.
sir?
How you guys doing?
Were you on vacation last week? Is that right?
That's right.
Yep. And things happened while you were gone, which is not allowed when we have known each other for 30 years. But
I told everybody when I got back, I said, anything happened last week?
Yeah, everything. All right, so they have been active. Have they scratched your itches when it comes to what they need, with, of course, still a long way to go to add to the roster or not?
Well, I think they've got a couple things that I think help. I thought the signing of Solomon Thomas was a good move. The fact that they were able to re-sign Oso Digizua was necessary. The fact that they were able to get their two restricted free agents, by the way, Cavante Turpin and Marquise Bell, signed to long-term deals. And what it did, it lessened on the salary cap what it would have cost to tender those guys. Even Turpin as a second round right of first refusal, and Bell was just going to be right of first refusal. But by signing them to long-term deals and giving them a little bit of a signing bonus, you spread it out and you lower the cap hit. And you know what, guys, even if you lower it like $2 million, when your top five guys are costing $121 million against the cap, after that, every $1 million counts, and that, can get you two minimum wage rookies on the roster. So I thought that was important. And then I like the trade for Kenneth Murray. You guys saw him play at Oklahoma. I was a fan of his going into the draft. So I know Tennessee gave up on him. But at least you got a guy at the linebacker spot. As for the other guys, Javonte Williams, the difference between Rico Dowdle, it was kind of a push. The contracts were the same, except for Rico getting an opportunity with incentives to make more than the $3 million. And the other guys, I think they're basically just guys, although interested in the linebacker, Jack Sanborn. Matt Eberflus had him with the Bears. And to me, he's probably a replacement for Nick Vigil as a backup linebacker, special teams guy. And then the other thing, and I know it's not got everybody going, wow, but to re-sign the deep snapper and the punter to keep the kicking operation the same, I think that was significant, because think about this. Brandon Aubrey led the team with 150 points, all right? And that's second all-time in Cowboys history. He ties, get this, he ties Emmitt Smith in 1995 when Emmitt had 25 touchdowns and it ended up 150 points. So it's little things like that, but I think if you put them together, it helps out. And the rest of the stuff they did is kind of putty stuff at positions that they needed at least some backups, but it doesn't satisfy anything that they necessarily have to take care of in the draft.
Yeah, Mickey, they've done it to where, you know, if you had to start a game tomorrow, they're better off than they were a week ago. And I'm not sure outside of, like, in this free agent class, outside of, like, going in and competing to try to get Devontae Adams, who appears to me to be on his, like, just wanted to go to the West Coast.
And he's a pain in the ass, by the way.
Yeah, that too. And
diva wide receiver.
Yeah, so going to get a diva wide receiver, like, outside of that, there's not those guys really out there. I mean, it feels like it could be at the beginning of free agency when you're like, this could happen and this could happen. Guys resign and all that. They've done what they need to do outside of the second wide receiver, which could come in the draft early on and all that.
And Paul, let me point out, free agency isn't over.
Yeah.
It's just over one day.
Yeah.
So there's still guys out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what if they decide that, you know, what if Amari Cooper says, oh, nobody wants me? I'll sign a 1-year deal for $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could do that. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was laughable, you guys, and I know I'm old and whatever, but I saw already somebody, I don't remember if it was ESPN or NFL Network or NFL.com, they had grades for the teams in free agency after the first day. You know, you can still sign guys. There's still guys out there. And again, some of those guys, if they're still out there and it's the end of March, they're going to go like, well, okay, I'll sign a 1-year prove-it deal. So there's still some wide receivers and cornerbacks that are available.
Yeah, I think Asante Samuel Jr. would be someone that would fit well with them.
You know what? I keep reading about him, and everything I see is he's a good you know, kind of if you're playing zone defense, and the Cowboys got spoiled with Jordan Lewis playing man in the slot, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of the things they lost, it was like, yeah, I hate to lose him. I hate to lose DeMarcus Lawrence, but Seattle money whipped him. And there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, same with Jacksonville and Jordan Lewis. That's
right.
Yeah, you got
to.
I
mean, he's going to be 30 years old. He's just a nickel corner, and they're giving him an average of $10 million a year with $20 million guaranteed. So yeah, if you have the money, go spend it. I'm all for it, but when you got to watch your dollars, you got to be careful.
You know, the Jordan Lewis thing, not a lot of people would understand. If they're Cowboys fans, he ended up being so reliable. Doesn't mean he didn't have bad moments. He got hurt, I think, is like 2 or 3 years ago. But every year except that one, he played 15 or 16 games every year in 8 or 7 of his 8 years. So he was, I always remember him when he got hurt, but he ended up being a pretty good player. Good for him making some money.
David, a little tiger, too, to play in the slot. And we were doing our podcast today, and Everson Walls pointed out, he goes, you know, the other thing he did at his size, he was willing to play the run. And that slot corner has to be able to support the run. And he did a really good job of that this year. And Cubby pointed out, he goes, you know, I didn't play in the slot until I went to the Giants. And then I realized, oh, I'm on the line of scrimmage. I got to support the run if it's not a pass, which again is the biggest feather in the hat for Darren Woodson being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, not only was he good cover guy in the slot, he ended up being the franchise's leading tackler, and they got about 5 or 6 guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he's got more tackles than any of them. But sorry, that's my rant.
That's okay. And by the way, you said earlier, I know I'm old. There's nothing wrong with that, Mickey. don't make that out to be a problem, please.
Mickey, do you foresee them maybe pursuing some like draft day trades for current players if they arise? Because they are, with the compensatory picks, they've got some wiggle room to do some things. I would think maybe with some of those, with those 2 picks, that 171 and 174, maybe you package those and move up a little bit in that round, or maybe that can help get you into the 4th round, which you're not in right now.
Yeah, I don't think for players, Paul. I think to move around, I think you might be able to do a package deal and get back into the 4th where they don't have a draft choice. They used it for Jonathan Mingo, the wide receiver from Carolina. But yeah, when you have, and you got to move a little bit, so you got those compensatory picks in the 5th. You got a couple in the 6th now. I can see them trying to maneuver, because it's like, if I haven't lost count, they got 10 picks. I believe, or still have 10 picks. So they're not going to have 10 rookies make the team. So there's no sense drafting 10 guys. So, I think you can kind of maneuver within the rounds, or maybe get a package and get back into the 4th if there's somebody you just got to have.
Who do you think of the recent signings would be the biggest risk to maybe not make the team?
Oh, I don't know about not make the team. Maybe not make a significant impact.
Like they don't have. I don't see a Clinton Dix on here.
Yeah, right. Now I have my just the cornerback from Buffalo, Kaiir Elam.
Yeah.
He was a 1st round pick, but Buffalo was willing to. He only started 12 of 29 games, that he played. But 29 games, he was either suffering injuries or he was inactive. And they kind of gave up on him. So I'm hoping is better than Andrew Booth, who, when the Cowboys swapped guys that basically weren't going to make the team for another guy that wasn't going to make Minnesota's team, and you kind of got what you got. I'm just hoping he's better than that, because they need some depth at the cornerback position, because after Deron Bland, and I don't think Trayvon Diggs is going to be ready to start the season. That 12th pick might have to be a cornerback, if the best cornerback in the draft.
All right, let's feel old now, because when Paul brought up the fact they had signed him from Buffalo, I said, I wonder if he's related in any way to Abram Elam, because he played with the Cowboys and, of course, he played with other teams. It's his son.
It's his son, and
he
was a rookie with the Cowboys in 2006.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he got busy.
Yeah. Or he was busy before he got to the Cowboys, one of the two. And he ended up coming back and playing another year for him in 2011. So, yeah, he had 2 tours of duty, and now you got his son on the Cowboys team. And, the guy, I'll guarantee you why he got drafted, and it wasn't high in the 1st round. It was in the 20s, right? And normally that's a 2nd round grade. But he ran a 4.39, and I'm sure that caught Buffalo's attention, and it's like, okay, we're going to take a chance on this guy, and he just never, he didn't get to the point, let's put it this way, that they were going to do the 5th year give him a 5th year option.
Yeah, Mickey, the fact, like, the Cowboys have these stages that they go through, and I think I like this one better than the baseball playing quarterback phase and the Jerry's home for wayward football players phase, which is guys who were 1st round picks who clearly have measurables that they can try and fix. I think that's a better phase if I can pay the Cowboys a compliment than we don't care about what this guy did, we can fix him, or, man, I really do like third baseman as my quarterback.
Right, and if I look at my list here, they've got 4 of those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Murray, Kyer Elam, Solomon Thomas, and who was the other guy? I think it was Peyton Turner, who never kind of bled a drop with the Saints at defensive end.
Yeah, so this is better. I mean, again, and this is a coaching staff that we know nothing about yet as a group. You know, we know that maybe it's individuals. So who knows? Like, other than, was it Lunda Wells and one other guy that are the same from last year?
Well,
other than Brian Schottenheimer, yeah, but
Schottenheimer, and yeah, there was the assistant offensive line coach, maybe. I think they ended up keeping him. So yeah, it's a completely new staff. You know, I don't know if we talked about it before. The thing that impressed me of this group is kind of their energy and their excitement. And, you know, when you're a new staff, you better have both, right? Because when you hit the field, you got to get the attention of your players. And I think this group will do that. And it was a nice mix of guys with experience in the league and guys that were college coaches coming into the league with maybe some, you know, fresh ideas. So I don't think it hurts. And again, when you put a staff together, you don't have carte blanche treatment to just grab who you want. You know, they got to be available. And you like to know something about these guys. And there seems to be, you know, Schottenheimer knew this guy at that spot. Somebody knew this guy that knew Schottenheimer. Or one of the, you know, Matt Eberflus was, you know, familiar with, I believe it was the linebacker coach he had with the Bears, you know, and his, and he knew, you know, like I mentioned, Jack Sanborn. So yeah, you kind of branch out and you don't get just kind of parochial about your knowledge or who knows who.
Mickey, thank you. Appreciate it. Hope you got decompressed while you were out for a few days.
David, I was ready to get back and get at it, and boy, did it go yesterday. It's like I was writing, and then I kept adding, and I said, okay, that's enough. You know, save something for tomorrow. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back with you guys.
Good to have you back with us. Thank you, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. A lot of Thursdays with us in the later part of the 5 o'clock hour. We are not done. We have Paul Catalina and his top 5 coming up next.
You might ask yourself what functional mushrooms are good for. Whether it's lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail, shiitake, reishi, they all serve a purpose.
You have ones for neurological health, ones for sleeping and gut health and all these different areas. They pack a powerful punch.
Functional mushrooms are, of the millions of mushrooms and fungi out there, the ones that we can actually ingest and benefit from as humans.
Like all adaptogens, they kind of adapt to what you need at the time that you need them.
We don't even really know that we're suffering. We just don't quite feel right. That's where these adaptogens come in and really start to close the gap and really start getting us closer to how we want to feel.
Functional mushrooms have definitely re-energized me and helped me face each day with a new vigor for life.
Learn ways that functional mushrooms can help you. Go to GetHumble.com.
You spent hours selecting your patio sofa. Choosing that grill would have taken weeks. Probably your car needed way more time. For sure, you would have spent months mulling over that pool of yours. Protecting your prized possessions needs no time, though. Just visit coversandall.com, create a custom size per your requirements, pick a fabric and personalize your cover, and leave the rest to us. Premium protection for all that you love.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Forget the fees, just big savings. Click the link in the description to find out more.
Well, hello. I'm Paul Catalina. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Ticket Club. Today, Cowboys free agency grade, the outside hires edition, something that they do not do quite a bit of. But yesterday, a flurry of trades and deals resulted in 4 former first-round picks joining the Cowboys, and then 1 not first-round pick that was actually better than the 4 first-round picks. But we'll talk about them in succession. Let's start in the former Big 12 with Kenneth Murray, former Oklahoma linebacker who's played for the Chargers and Titans. The Cowboys got him for a pick swap. They got him in a 7th-round pick for their 6th-round pick in this year's draft, and he does provide them with some much-needed depth at linebacker, and he's been an okay player, but not a great player, and on his 3rd team, you know, if you're a first-round draft pick of just a few years ago and you're already on your 3rd team, you're a bit of a reclamation project, but he is athletic, he's a fairly good tackler, and they need a linebacker, so I'm going to give this one a C+. And I know that Ralphie here from Christmas Story did not care for the C+, but really, it's better than most grades that they've gotten over the last few years. Number 4, Kaiir Elam, a C-. Here's why. He has hardly played. He hasn't been able to crack the Bills lineup. He was a first-round draft pick in 2022. Just not the best at what he's doing. And he might just be the 4th cornerback on the Cowboys. Now, if they don't do anything else and then draft somebody later, if that's how the way the draft falls, he might move up that depth chart. But cornerback is a desperate position of need after they lost Jordan Lewis. Trayvon Diggs is not going to be available to start the season, and they don't know when he'll be available to play. So it's a big need. Kalen Carson, a draft pick they had last year from Wake Forest, who actually I'd like a great deal and think has a lot of potential, is coming off a shoulder injury. Andrew Booth, who they traded for from last year from the Vikings, really just more of a special teamer and a desperation guy. Israel Mukwamu, who could come back and really play for them, It might, but is a free agent, and they may not bring him back. So we'll see how they approach that. Asante Samuel Jr. on the free agent market, that is a move I would like to see them make. He's a player that has been much more steady and solid than Kaiir Elam over the years. And I don't just say that because Elam is a Gator and Asante Samuel is a beloved Florida State Seminole. But Kaiir Elam hasn't lived up to it. Asante Samuel, a guy maybe on the rise. But if the Cowboys feel they can get more out of him, I'm just not nuts about trading for Kaiir Elam overall. Number 3, and the best one, Jack Sanborn. Bears linebacker, knows Eberflus's system, a 1-year deal, but a tackling machine. Somebody who fits in, already knows Eberflus's system, and can play and tackle guys from day one. Pair him with a really good young tackler in Maris Leofau. I like that 1-2 punch. Kenneth Murray makes it okay, but they still need to address it in the draft and maybe one more time in free agency, whether it's C.J. Mosley or Eric Kendricks or a veteran on a short-term deal that can come in and really help them raise that level. So I'll give this one a B+. That has potential to rise to an A because I really do like what I've seen from Jack Sanborn in his career. And he's a really tough linebacker. He's got that grit the Cowboys need on defense. Number 2, Solomon Thomas, the former 3rd overall pick in the draft by the 49ers. He was then with the Jets and now with the Cowboys. He's going to play on the defensive line, probably at defensive tackle. He's essentially Chauncey Golston's replacement, who left in free agency. They will not have him next year. But playing next to Oso Odighizuwa and Mozzie Smith, he's a good rotational player. He's someone who's a little bit better than most of the guys they could have gotten. I'm okay with it. Hopefully being back in Texas, he's from Capel, rejuvenates his career. So I'll give that one a B. I like that one a little bit more than most. And number 1, C-, defensive end Peyton Turner of the Saints. I feel like Lisa Simpson here. He's hardly played. He hasn't produced. He's supposed to be a pass rusher. If Sam Williams and Marshawn Nealon are healthy, I just don't see him getting on the field that much. Dante Fowler's back out there as a free agent. They could bring him back if they wanted to, and he would play more. So a rotational player at best, and that's what most of these guys are. They're to fill out the depth chart in case they don't get what they need in the draft right away. And that's fine. It's just I feel they could have been a little bit more aggressive, even though this year's free agent class, not, chock full of dudes that are going to do it. But the Cowboys go through alarming trends over their history, whether it be the baseball playing quarterback phase or the Jerry's home for wayward stars phase. Now it's the you couldn't coach this first round bust, but we sure as hell can phase. So I'd rather just see them be in the winning all the time phase. But whatever, of those phases, this one is the far more tolerable one than the baseball playing quarterback phase, which was Brandon Whedon and Chad Hutchinson and Quincy Carter and Drew Henson, or the Jerry's home for wayward football players of Demetrius Underwood and Tank Johnson and Rolando McClain, which kind of falls into 2 categories. Martavius Bryant was the last one in that. He was just there with them a year ago and never made the squad. But anyway, as phases go, this is more of a tolerable phase. It's kind of like instead of the I got an earring in college phase, it's I got a tattoo of the day my grandfather died. It's maybe more sentimental, I guess. But that being said, that's going to do it for us. We are out the door in just 1 second. Have a good day, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Paul, very much. And, oh, by the way, I just mentioned this to Paul and Craig, and the NCAA announcing today that athletes who competed at the junior college, NAIA, or other non-NCAA schools and would have had their eligibility after this school calendar year exhausted can now play next year, except for those who only NCAA seasons was in 2021 or 20 in 2021, which is per NCAA guidelines. So this was almost like the Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt. The ruling with him now carries over for those particular student athletes to get that extra year. If it's not COVID, then it's something else.
I think you're reading it a little bit differently than it really is. I mean, I understand where everybody gets another year. It's not really what this is. There's a lot of guys who are not getting the years they were hoping for as a result of that ruling. We've kind of heard about this in December, but Yeah, I need to read more about what the actual – I don't even know who else would pertain to, so I don't know if it's even fair to say. This is like the Diego Pavia thing. I know why that's probably the way it'll be known as. But, yeah, I don't think this is some like –
Okay, I got a question then.
I don't think this is some like oh, my God, this is going to –
Why, though? Why are they getting an extra year?
So they can just
because they can't. They stop being
save the lawyer fees.
Yeah,
save the lawyer fees,
which is what the Pavia thing was.
But then they can do this now, and hopefully, because they're about to have an entirely new structure, they can set some rules, and they can set those rules by collectively bargaining, which they won't do.
Well, here's the other thing: like people, oh my God, this means that like they got to have a place to go.
Yeah,
like, and I don't know that you're like, oh yeah, we really want that person back because now their JUCO year doesn't count. I mean, Diego Pavia, sure, but name a second person.
Well, I don't know the list
exactly,
of the name,
right.
but it is
There's
yet
a lot
again,
of baseball players that are
what
playing this
it might do is it might, in some cases, clog up the middle to bottom portions of a roster.
But I'm with you on the like, oh, well, another unofficial NCAA loss in some ways. So, I mean, good for those that deserve to benefit from that. And, you know, I'm with you on just the never-ending, we'll allow it, or it's not even you allowing it so much as like, yep, we're not going to do anything about that. So that is getting very tiresome of just throw a lawsuit at them and they'll probably run away.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew Valade. Great job today. We have a mixed bag of tomorrow on the show Friday. We'll let you know more about that lineup once we get it settled in, but it's a pretty good lineup going forward.
We will talk baseball with Jared
Sandler. Hockey with former Stars Stanley Cup champion Brett Severin, and he's also the studio co-host, analyst for Stars Hockey on Victory Plus. And Baylor and Texas Tech about the tip-off for that game. The winner will play either Kansas or Arizona. They play the late game tonight. I'm David Smoak for Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, Andrew Valade, and our great sponsors, and you, the audience, thank you for your time. 365 Sports, good night.